All right. Ray will have a word of prayer, and then I'll introduce Dan here. So let's go for a word of prayer. Lord, we just thank you for this day. We thank you for everything you've given us. We just pray you just give us a good meeting here. Let's pray that you open our ears to things, and Lord, that maybe we would take his warnings to heart, Lord. I just pray you just give him the freedom and a liberty to speak, and just be with us this evening. May you be glorified in all we say and do. Your Son, Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
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 All right, for those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Dan Banta. In my civilian job, I work for the Indiana Department of Homeland Security. So you should all feel real secure. Don't hold that against me. I know there's a lot of people out in the community that have lately developed a great distrust for the way our government's being run. And those of us that work for the government have the same feelings in a lot of areas. I don't know how much of the news you guys have watched in the last couple of days. Yesterday, HSBC Banking Corporation in Great Britain went down. 270,000 bank customers across the whole country could not get their paychecks, could not get any money out of their bank machines. The debit cards didn't work. Yesterday in the United States, here locally, the Aldi's grocery store chain, their debit cards, they couldn't take debit cards, their machines went down. Today there's a lot of places that couldn't take EBT cards, which is the electronic bank transfer cards that they give instead of food stamps. The old days, they gave you a little package of coupons. Today they give you an EBT card. So we're working on electronic money. People don't realize what silver and gold is anymore. They don't know what hard assets are. Even the dollar bills that you carry are federal debt notes. They're not backed by anything. It's paper money. It's fictitious. And as long as people are trading me for goods for that fictitious money, I'm going to keep using it. But eventually there's going to come a time when that's not going to be available. And we're looking at different scenarios. And I was talking to, I don't know even the lady here. Emily. Sister Emily there, because I work for the Air Force as a reserve. I'm an Air Force Reserve officer, and we just came off our 4 weeks of AT, and since I'm the logistics officer, I buy all the food. Well, we had a lot of leftovers, and so we try to give them to different food banks like Mother's Cupboard down in Bean Blossom, and this year we brought some up to her just a little bit, so that we could pass it on to somebody that needed it. And we were talking, and we got to talking about being prepared and what's going on in the world. And one of the things I want to stress, you hear all these stories about survivalists and preppers, and the government, they are very down on survivalists. I am not a survivalist. I am not a prepper. I consider myself a homesteader of the old school. My grandparents, they canned food and they put it away. My mother knew how to can food, or knows how to can food. The thing is, we're in a just-in-time society. And you know, when we have a tornado or we have a blizzard, or they say there's going to be ice tomorrow night, you go an hour later to the grocery store, there's no milk, there's no bread, there's no eggs, there's no beer, there's no potato chips. I've noticed at Walmart, we checked the last 3 times because my sister-in-law works there, the beer disappeared before the milk, the bread. And I said, well, some people's priorities aren't quite right. And I don't want to show of hands, but I just went and talked to a group, and we passed out papers, and I said, I want to give you a few questions, and I want you to write your answers down. So I want you to think about this. If you couldn't go to the grocery store for a week, have you got enough stuff in your house that you're not going to starve to death in that week? If you couldn't go for a month, have you got enough stuff that you won't starve to death after a month? The reason I'm asking this is the federal government tells you you should have a minimum of 3 days of supplies in your home for yourselves, right? That's what the government says. FEMA says you should have 10 days, the Federal Emergency Management Agency. The state of Indiana says, the Homeland Security site says you'd have 2 weeks. With our system the way it is, there's a three-day turnaround for food. How many of you know what an EMP is? Oh man, we've got a good group here. If we were EMP'd, there would be no food. getting anywhere. There would be no trucks, no transportation. And so I always ask, what does your vehicle run on? How new is your vehicle? Do you have a backup plan? So these are the things we're going to go over. But one of the things that has bothered me, and I'm going to give you a website. It's called preparedchristian.net. And it's run by a man named Chris Ray. And this is an excellent tool and resource for you to have, for those of you that are on the computers. Now, some of us are old school and we don't use a lot of the computer stuff. I understand that. But for those of you that are, look it up. It's a good thing. And one of the things he puts out on Prepared Christians is he printed a book. And the name of the book is Why Should I Prepare? And Is It Biblical? It says in Matthew in 8:25 through 34, and again in Luke 12:28, it says, consider the lilies. They need a toil nor spin. God doesn't tell us not to prepare. He says, don't worry about things because your Heavenly Father will take care of you. But He doesn't say not to prepare. Excuse me. In Joseph's time, Joseph was taken to Egypt to prepare for everything that was coming for his family. And all throughout different times in the Bible, God's had the watchman on the wall and people being told things to do and things to prepare. A lot of people say, well, God will provide, Well, that's like saying if God gives you a watch and you're blessed enough to get a watch, are you being against God? Or are you not being faithful because you look at the watch and tell the time instead of expelling God to tell you what time it is all the time? And how many of you have car insurance? Okay? Or house insurance? You are preparing. You're expecting a problem. What is the difference between having car insurance and having food insurance? Having electrical insurance? Having insurance that you've put in place to protect yourself and your families for a situation. We're tornado out here. I mean, that's just what it is. In 2008, the tornadoes went through 3-notch and went through Camp Atterbury. I was on Camp Atterbury the day they hit. I just went out the main gate. I was going home for the evening. I got up the hill past Princess Lakes, and I realized a tornado just went in front of me. And I said to myself, Self, I can't get home this way. So I turned around and went back to the base. So I figured I'd call home and make sure everything was okay. At that time, I wasn't carrying a cell phone. Bad idea on my part. I forgot it at work. I said, I'll get it in the morning. Won't matter. Wrong answer. So I got back to base, and I couldn't get back to my office because 2 tornadoes had gone through the middle of the base, and I couldn't get past the debris. So I was not prepared as I should have been. Ostriches put their head in the ground. I have a few family members, and everybody's got 1 or 2 in their family that says, it'll never happen here. The government will take care of us. Well, I've watched what the government's done with my tax money and your tax money. I don't think they're very good stewards. And so I don't trust them to take care of me. I watched what happened after the hurricane in New Orleans. I don't think the governor's a good steward. I don't think they took good care of the people. And it's not just there. Look at everything happening in New York and every place else. So biblically, it's the right thing to do to prepare. So what are we looking at? What are the 5 main things we as Christians have to have for our families? Food. Water. Clothing. Shelter. Warmth and heat. That's the 5 main things. There's a rule what we in survival stuff and survival schools, they call it the rule of 3. Okay? You can last 3 minutes without air, 3 hours without climate control of some sort, whether it's too hot, if it's too cold, 3 days without water, 3 weeks without food, and the 5th one is 3 months without talking to another human being. They have found that we're humans, we're interactive, just like the monkeys are and the orangutans and other animals. We feed off each other. We get strength from each other. And so this rule of 3s are important to us because we have to prepare for those things. We are facing right now, we're in year 30 of the 100-year drought cycle that comes every 3,000 years. This is the 30th year. If you look back over the last 30 years, of how the drought cycle has been hitting out in the west and the mountains and everything, and how it's coming this way, we are in that drought cycle. Now, this spring you could have fooled me because I lost all my north-south fences. I flooded out 3 vehicles. I woke up, they were all gone, the cow was gone, and I said, okay, at least I don't have to milk. Well, come milking time, the cow showed up at the barn. So I did have to milk anyway. But we can't see that, but if you go into the scientific studies that's going on right now, we'll find that we're in a drought. Even though we're over for this last couple months, overall, over the last 2 years, we're still in a drought. And when you go to drilling wells and stuff around here, you have to go deeper and deeper and deeper. So that's something we have to be concerned about. If you're living in a city, or if you're on county water, especially if you're on Brown County water, it's always going down anyway. If you don't have a backup plan for your water, you got problems. I see a lot of adults here, and I see a couple of young people. I don't know if you guys are adults or not, but that's okay.
We're close.
Huh?
We're close.
We're close. But we think about stuff like this, and as I'm preparing to take care of my family, and we're men, okay? Biblically, our job is to protect and to serve, okay? That's not just a policeman. That is the male of the species, okay? There are some women who are better protectors than men. I know that. That's okay. But for us, a man wants to go out and fix everything. We don't know, we can't fix the thing. We're always trying to fix it, even when it's not broke sometimes. So as a man, I look out for my family. I got a wife. I'm 61. My wife's 61. We've got a 6-year-old little boy. And so I've got to look out for him to get out of high school, to get him grown up in the way of the Lord, so that I know not only will he be saved when he's the right age, but he'll know what to do and how to take care of himself. So we're planning on that. And so I've got to prepare, so if we have a catastrophe or a little emergency, that we can go through it. Most people in today's world live paycheck to paycheck. And if they're paycheck like the people in Great Britain that didn't get their checks yesterday, there's all over the email on Twitter and what's that other one? The book. Facebook. I told you I wasn't real good in computers. All kinds of things people writing and saying, my mortgage is due on the 1st and I'm not getting my check. My electric bill, my water bill, my sewer bill, I pay everything on the 1st. Now I do the same thing. But I'm not in the disconnect. So I have some breathing space. But it used to be when I first got married, and I had 4 children back then, and now I'm down to only 1 little guy, I was living in the disconnect. I was one of these guys that never heard of Dave Ramsey, never heard of paying all your bills, and I was living paycheck to paycheck. I had a couple of credit cards for emergencies. That was my emergency fund. Bad planning. I've learned about Dave Ramsey. I've gotten out of debt. So I'm ahead of it now. I'm ahead of the curve. And that's where we need to be. We need to start preparing. So let's talk about water. Where are you going to find water? If it's not going to come out of the faucet when you turn the faucet on, how many of you have a well on your property? A couple of you. Do you have a way of pumping water out of the well if there's no electricity?
I was going to lure her down with the bucket.
How big's the well pipe?
Dig it out a little bit.
Oh. I mean, most people have a 4-inch well pipe. Okay? 6-inch maximum. Now, they do still make pitcher pumps and long-handled, the next size up pump that'll do deep well. Eric knows what they are. I can't remember what they're called. Oh, by the way, this is my mom and my brother. And so I brought them, I invited them along to sit in because I got some questions for him to answer for you guys too. But what we do is I've got a pitcher pump on the creek well. I dug a well by the creek and I made it a well and put the charcoal in it and the sand and the pea gravel. So, because there's a creek that runs by my property on the west side. And so I wanted a backup plan, and then I've got a spring behind my house that I'm building and I can use that. But if you don't have that opportunity, you don't have a well, where else can you get water?
Pond.
A pond?
Lake.
A lake? Creek?
Creek.
When the people in Louisiana had all the issues, and they had the hurricane go through, and New Orleans was flushed. That's the way I looked at it. God flushed it, but, they repaired it. They didn't have water. You know, you heard the saying, water, water everywhere and not a drop to drink. There were a few people down there that were prepared. And they were Seventh-day Adventists, Church of Jesus Christ Mormons. And I was talking to a friend of mine that's a Mormon from the Air Force. He said, we were down there at the time, and he says, we're taking all of our canned goods out, the number 10 cans. And he says, we're bleaching, taking bleach water, and we're cleaning the cans. And he says, they're all cans are still good. All the food's still air sealed, no problem. But he says, they were contaminated, so we had to clean them. I said, what happened to all the labels? That was my, being the way I am, I was curious. He says, you think I wouldn't think of that? He said, when we put them away, we took permanent markers and we wrote on top of the can what it is. I thought, that is pretty smart. He says, because we've been through floods before, we've been through tornadoes before. So as I put away my preps that I'm putting back, so I got 2 or 3 months worth of stuff, so I've got time to survive. On all my cans of spaghetti, if it's spaghetti, it says spaghetti on top. It says spat. If it's SpaghettiOs, it's spatto. And so if it's beets or whatever, I put it on there with a marker. It takes about 10 seconds a can. But if you have a problem, then you have a backup plan. Now, we're going to get our water out of the creek. Can you drink it? So what do you do to make it palatable?
Boil.
Say again? Boil it. What's another way? Filtration.
Bleach.
Bleach.
Osmosis.
Osmosis. But osmosis takes electricity, doesn't it?
I don't know.
See, I don't know about osmosis. I've heard of it, but I've never used it. I'm going to tell you, there's websites out there, but you can make a simple filter for about $9 that you can pour water through. Or you can pay $300 and buy a British Berkfield and go whole hog in a silver canister. Or you can go for about $80 and do a British Berkfield homemade filter and buy cheap. You buy the black filters, get you 2 food grade 5-gallon cans and lids. You stack them, screw the lids, and the top bucket, drill the holes through the lid of the bottom bucket, and you put the filters in the top bucket and cut all the tabs so you can lift it off, pour the water on the top, it runs through the filters. You don't have to buy all the canisters and stuff from British Berkfield. All you got to buy is the filters. And Berkfield filters, the black ones, are what we send overseas with our missionaries. We send a British Berkfield and we send filters. If you're going to do water, have some coffee filters. Or, I don't know how many of y'all use cloth diapers anymore. We still, with Isaac, used cloth diapers. Because I couldn't see spending $40 and $50 a week to throw something away. Because once you get the throwaway diaper full, it's no good anymore. It says it's good to 12 pounds, but don't believe it. But so, there are ways to do it. You can make a charcoal granulated filter with a piece of PVC pipe and two glue-on caps, and put your little valve in the bottom to drain it, and you put activated charcoal, put a coffee filter, activated charcoal, sand, pea gravel, bigger rock on top of it, and you pour it through. You can find this information on the internet. It's called improvised water filters. Okay? Clorox bleach. The unscented. Don't use a scented. It'll make you sicker than a dog. Trust me. We had one of the guys in the military tried that on us and didn't tell us, and about 30 of us got really ill. Because the scenting in that stuff is hazardous to your health. 2 drops of bleach to 1 quart of water. Okay?
2 drops?
2 drops of bleach to 1 quart of water. Now, if you're going to be putting in, people will say, well, I'm going to put a bunch of bleach away as part of my preps, so if we haven't got clean water, we can make water. Well, if you put 20 gallons of bleach away, it's going to deteriorate, and it only takes 2 years, because I've tried this, for the plastic start leaching out and the bleach to come out of it. What you want to buy, and you get them at Walmart, is bleach tablets. And each tablet, you drop it in 2 gallons of water, and it makes 2 gallons of bleach. And it comes out to the same concentration of bleach that you would get out of a gallon of bleach. Remember, if you're doing water and you're doing things of this nature, if you don't get food grade plastic, this stuff's going to make you sick. Because the plastic will leach into the water. So, you got to think, where am I going to get water? How am I going to get it? And if you're going to use filters like Burke filters or whatever, pre-filter your water with a dish towel, a rag, or anything to catch the sediment and all that, because it makes your filters last longer. A pair of Berkey filters does 3,000 gallons of water, they say. But because we've pre-filtered, or we run the water out of the Brown County water through the Berkey filters, we're on 7,000 gallons right now, and it's still cleaning it fine. And Berkfield filters, you can get the little soft brush, bristle brush, and you can clean the filter if it starts going slower. Okay? So we're going to take care of our water situation. And it's not that hard to do. Food, if you've got some put away, our relatives, our ancestors, we didn't have the luxury of the grocery stores to go down and buy beans and stuff like that. And so when you, in the spring and the summer we can, and my wife and I we can, and we process and we put stuff away. A year's worth of groceries, okay, for us to live a year and to feed our family of 4 that's at home right now, takes 2,800 quarts of tomatoes, vegetables, fruits, everything but the meat. 2,800 quarts. That's a lot of quarts if you put them all up, and you're going to eat just out of that. And it takes a lot of space. And you better have a root cellar or a basement, because if the power goes down and you've got no heat, I have found out by experience, quart jars full of tomatoes and vegetables and fruits freeze and bust. And quart jars are expensive. They're $9 a case right now for the wide mouth. $9.99 was the cheapest I found. So, and we're slowly building ours back up. But you've got to be thinking about, one, if you're going to put the food away, where you're going to put it. How you're going to store it. Okay? And you got to have it. Now, I love to watch the prepper shows. How many of you seen Doomsday Preppers? Or know what it is? These people are morons. Okay? Number one, if you're putting food away, keep your mouth shut. Because what will happen when the stuff hits the fan, if you're the guy that's been out here teaching like I'm teaching now, and they know that you're the man that's been teaching this, they're going to assume that you've got a lot put away. So where are they going to go when the stuff hits the fan? I had somebody say, well, I don't have to put anything away when the stuff hits the fan. I'm coming to your house. I said, you better bring beans, bullets, Bibles, and Band-Aids. Because if you don't have those 4 B's, you ain't coming. And if I've told you, and I'm the watchman on the wall, saying, repent, the hour of the Lord is here, and you didn't do the repentance, and you didn't do what you're supposed to do, it is not my fault, and your blood is not on my head. And that's what I tell people. I told them Thursday, I said, listen, I'm out here telling you this is what could happen. Now you've got that information. If you need more information, ask me. Tell me what you need to know. Tell me what you don't know. Tell me what you don't understand. If I don't have the answer, I'll find it. But if I've told you, and you just put your head in the ground, and I got a sister, she doesn't want to hear it, you know, you know what I'm talking about. It's never happened and never will. And they said, well, look at Y2K. It didn't happen. Well, that's because the government and the people worked their butts off to keep bad things from happening. There were some instances where major computers went down because everything was in COBOL in the old days. Now it's all in a new language. But in the old COBOL stuff, it was all X's, O's, ones, and zeros. And so all the programming, you wrote a program, and I've written it because I went to Franklin College and I was taking a computer class, and I said, this is the craziest thing in the world I've ever seen. And I didn't like it, and that's why I'm not in computers. Because it was making me nuts. So it isn't what you need to do. And so if we take care of our food issues, and the Doomsday Preppers, they've got 5,000 pounds of beans, 2,000 pounds of red hard wheat, 2,000 pounds of white soft wheat. And I was watching this, and I was looking on the TV, and we backed it up 2 or 3 times. They're talking about all this stuff. And so they're showing everything they've got. They're showing all the tools they got. They're showing their kitchen stuff. I saw no way of grinding the wheat. Were they going to use a mortar and a pestle? You know, a little cup go like this? If you're going to put away wheat, you got to have a way to prepare it. If you're going to put away beans, you better be putting away cases of Beano. Okay? because some people can't handle the beans, and you don't want to be around the other ones that. But you see, you know what I'm talking about. You've always got that friend. Well, I got 150 pounds of navy beans and 50 pounds of garza beans and 50 pounds of black beans. He said, I won't starve. And let me tell you, tree rat, which is squirrel, it takes 6 good-sized squirrels to feed a family for one meal to get any kind of decent meat. Any of y'all hunters? You know what I'm talking about? One squirrel is not enough for somebody my size. So then we're going to talk about, as we're talking about food, Eric brought a U.S. Army manual that they just put out. These are 2 excellent books. You can get them on eBay for almost nothing. I mean, like 15 bucks. And he's got the one that the Army Department of the Army just put out.
Tractor Supply.
From Tractor Supply. How much was it?
13.
13 bucks.
Good investment.
And I'm going to leave these out where you can write the names down and the ISBN numbers off the back if you want. But I got mine off, my wife bought them for me from Amazon. And she also bought me, and she's got them in her purse, or not in her purse, in her bug out bag. There's a set of like playing cards on a chain. Well, I threw away the chain, they got one big round metal key rings. And what it does, it's got color pictures that tells you what the plant is, what you can eat, and what you can't. Year round, there's food in the woods. But people, and in the marshes, in the swamps, people don't know it. Anybody know what a cattail is? The brown fluffy stuff, you take it down like this as you're making a stew, and it thickens a stew up. It's like using flour. The bulb on the bottom, that's like a potato, but it's a lot starchier. It's okay if you got salt and pepper, and it's really good with butter, but you can get it down and it will sustain you just by eating that.
And the young shoots, you cook them like bamboo. The young green shoots, you cut them off, the white internal part, just chop it up and stir fry it like you do bamboo. It's really good.
Eric is our tribal medicine man. He does all the herbal stuff and the tribal for the tribe and for people, for our families. He teaches the edible and medicinal plant class where he takes people out in the woods and shows them what to look for. Touch-me-nots or jewelweed. Everybody know what that is? It's a little orange flower or yellow flower, but usually it's orange. It's along the creeks and stuff. That's the natural antibiotic for poison ivy, poison oak, poison sumac. Works on chiggers, works on some people for psoriasis. It helps with it.
Eczema.
Eczema, yeah, that's the other thing. But it's out there. Pretty much any kind of a poisonous plant out there, God put the antidote out there with it.
Yep.
But people don't take the time to study it. Eric makes jewelweed soap for us, and I don't know how much we sent out with the Air Force cadets this year, but every year at Atterbury they come down with chiggers and poison ivy and poison oak, and then when they take about 20 bars, the medical people, when they first get there, and they'll take a bar, and they'll say, kid's covered with poison ivy, he says, go take a shower. And he says, wash it off good, and then he says, soap it down again and leave it on you till it dries. And he says, then go rinse it off and come back and see me in an hour and bring back the bar. And 99% of the time it clears it right up. Some people may have to shower twice with it, but it clears it up and does a great job. So God has put the antidotes out there for us to use. You know what chicory is? A little spindly plant like this, got a little purple flower.
Blue flower.
Well, okay, it's blue.
Blue.
I'm not good on colors. I can't tell you orange from red either. But it gets about this tall, and it's in the book, you can look at it. And the flower's there in the morning when it's cool. By afternoon, the flower closes down. It grows right alongside the roads. It grows out in the woods. That's called chicory. You dig it up, you take the root of the plant, you dry it, you grind it up, you boil it in water, and it's Indian coffee. It's a coffee substitute. It's what the Native Americans, and if you read Louis L'Amour, they talk about chicory and Louis L'Amour and St. Grey. But there's all kinds of things you can do with it. And again, I don't delve into the edible stuff as much as he does. That's his field of expertise.
You might want to tell them the names of those books there.
I'm going to let them take and use the books when we get done. They can pass them around and write them all down. I won't leave till everybody who wants to write them down has a chance. So we're taking care of food and water. Sassafras. Y'all know what sassafras tea is. Sassafras, when you boil it, it's called a spring tonic back in the day because it's a blood thinner. if you have high blood pressure and you can't get your blood pressure medicine and you start drinking sassafras, it'll bring your blood pressure down. But the problem with it is if you drink too much, it thins your blood, and when you get cut, it's hard for you to quit bleeding. But it will solve that problem. And while I'm talking about bleeding, local honey is a natural antibiotic, and if you get a real bad cut, take a handful of honey and just smear it in that cut. And it will help the blood coagulate, and it'll seal that up till you can get to a doctor and get stitched if you got to have stitches. Now, one of the things we teach in another class that we haven't thought about with you guys yet is we teach emergency suturing. And we use an orange, a grapefruit, and a smoked ham. The orange and the grapefruit is like sewing somebody with calluses on the bottom of their feet or calluses on their fingers if you had to stitch one up. The ham would be sewing up an arm, a leg, a buttocks. I mean, it's about the same when you're suturing. And people say, well, why do I need to know how to suture? There's a hospital right up the road. Doc Brester, who's our vet, he's just around the corner. I'll tell you what, if I was in trouble, I would have no problem having Doc Brester, even as old and shaky as he is, sew me up. Okay? And the antibiotics that they use for the animals are the same thing. If you get the opportunity and you want to do something fun, it'll take you half a day. Take the Eli Lilly tour. And you have to sign up for it in advance, and you got to give about 30 days notice. Go up and take a tour. They'll take you in. They'll put the little white hat on you. For those of you with facial hair, you got the little white beardy thing. Okay? And they'll take you in. You watch them running the pills. Well, I was up there taking the tour, and they stopped the machines. This big bell goes off. I said, what in the world? Takes a square thing out, takes it out, puts another one in. He goes like this. All of them are doing the same thing. And then the bell rings, the machine starts again. So I said to the guy, what's that all about? He said, we were running for animals. He said, now we're running for people again. So they are the same. If you go to Doc Brester and he says, for your dog, and he says, I'm going to put him on 500 milligrams of amoxicillin, QID, which is 4 times a day, Q being quarterly, okay? Then he'll give you a script. And you say, what do I do with this? Well, you go down to Walmart or Walgreens or CVS, wherever you go. You hand them that script. They'll go to the same bottle they're taking out for people and put it in there for your dog. Now, for those of you that are wanting to do it and are concerned about antibiotics being available to you should there an emergency arise, and you can take amoxicillin or penicillin or amoxicillin or any of these, right? Or ampicillin, Ceflexin. You can go on something called CaliforniaVetSupply.com. It's called CalVetSupply.com. And they sell antibiotics over the counter for animal use, for your fish and for your birds. Fish mox, I think, is amoxicillin. Fish-cillin is the penicillin. But it's all there. But if now I'm 61 years old. I know what I can take and what I can't. And I have self-medicated at times because I got an infection or I got bronchitis. I've been to the doctor. They charged me $85. They listen to my chest and I hear that crack and the wheezing. He said, you need to be on antibiotics for 7 days, 4 times a day. Okay, doc. So I would go and order a whole bottle of these for $60 for 100 tablets of the same thing that I'm paying for a 7-day supply at Walmart for $75. And because I already know what bronchitis is, and I've had pneumonia, and I know what to take for it, because I've had it so many times, then why should I go back to the doc, pay him $85 or $70, and then go to the pharmacy and pay them when I've already ordered it and kept it in stock at home? I've got cows, I got goats, I got chickens, I got rabbits. So I keep stuff in case somebody gets sick or a goat gets a cut on a barbed wire fence or something. I got to sew them up. And if I sew up a goat, I put it on antibiotics for 7 days, a low dose depending on its weight, so it makes sure there's no infection and we don't use that milk for that time. So there are ways to prepare, and if you're on medication for blood pressure, for heart, or anything, heart or anything like that, it's prudent to have at least a 90-day supply. Now, a lot of doctors give you a 30-day, note. And so all you got to do is when you go and see the doc, say, hey, doc, I can get this cheaper if you give me a 90-day supply. It saves me money. And they don't have to call you and get it refilled all the time. Plus, it saves me money because I don't have to go to the pharmacy every 30 days. And most doctors now, most medical insurance companies would rather you take a 90-day supply. And so it's good to have your bottle that you're using for a 90-day supply and your next bottle on hand in case there's an interruption for a few weeks. I keep extras on hand that I take or my wife takes or whatever. Now we try to do everything herbally. And so that makes it better because you don't have to have a prescription for herbs yet. For if there is no antibiotics, what did they use for antibiotics for penicillin? Anybody know? Garlic. In World War I, the Germans and the Poles were bringing train carloads of garlic to treat the soldiers that had the problems from the mustard gas because they didn't have antibiotics. They used silver sulfidide for burns. Remember, you go to the doctor and he makes up this bluish white cream when you burn yourself real bad and they put it all over you. If you had a real deep wound back in the 40s and 50s, and when they were getting ready to sew you up, they'd put a little piece of silver wire in there. And it would stay on your arm while they sewed you up, or your leg. And then they've got something that was made back then. You could go to the pharmacist and get what is called colloidal silver. And some of you may know what colloidal silver is. And I can tell you how to make your own generator, how to make your own, if you're interested. And it's online, you can look it up. But it costs you about $35 to make your own colloidal silver generator. It costs you $14 or $15 maybe now for the little pin-like thing that you put in there. It tells you how many parts per million is in your water, your colloidal silver. And I run mine at 15 parts per million. I got jungle rot on my feet, and I got that yellow toe fungus a lot of us guys get. The only thing that gives me any relief for the jungle rot, and I picked it up in the Army, is to soak my feet in colloidal silver solution. And it'll start cleaning it up and clearing it up. And for 2 or 3 weeks, I don't have the itchies all the time. And if I do it every 2 weeks like I'm supposed to, I'm in great shape. So, those are different antibiotics. And I know I'm throwing a lot of different stuff at you. So we've talked about food. We've talked about water. We've kind of hit a little bit on medicine that you should have. Let's talk about shelter. And what you need with your shelter. Well, number one, you need a place to stay, to sleep. And it could be a house, an RV, a tent, or whatever. And that's fine. And then you need something to keep you warm while you're in that abode. Most of us live in a house. Now, some people live in apartments. I don't know what y'all are in. We're in a house. I'm still building the house because when we got the little boy, we weren't expecting a little boy. Not at our age. And we adopted him, and so there was no room for the little boy. He's 6, and I want him out of my bedroom. So I'm on the process of getting his room done this week. That's what I've been doing all week on my time off. So in your home, in the summertime, you can open the windows to get some air. In the wintertime, if you've got no electric, you're going to have a little bit of a problem if you don't have alternate heat source. You're going to have a problem if you don't have an alternate way of cooking. Now, I own, in my house, I have what's called a Baker's Choice Amish wood cook stove. It's 48 inches this way, it's 32 inches this way, it's about this tall. The left side of it is the firebox, the right side on the bottom is the oven. That heats my whole house in the wintertime, and my wife cooks on it. She usually starts about middle of November when it starts getting cool. She'll put a low fire in during the day, and at night she'll kick it up and cook on it. And usually we keep it going nonstop till probably the 15th or so of March. We have had a couple of issues that it was warming up and she was trying to cook supper, and I said, hey, it's 2 hours behind supper time. She says, I cannot get the stove hot enough. I said, you got an electric range right there. She said, I forgot I had it. Because in the wintertime she never used it, so it becomes that she puts a board across the top and she puts her canisters on there. In the summer, the board goes on the wood stove and the canisters go over there. So she forgot all about the electric stove. And so we use it. We use it for heat. We use it to cook on. We use it to heat up water. When we had this flood here, was it 3 or 4 weeks ago? Our road was really blessed. There's a creek runs behind us. It's about this deep normally. It took out my fences. It totaled my truck. It flooded out 2 Jeeps. It moved all the firewood from the west side of the property to the front gates on the east side of the property. It washed out half of the road we live on. It took out the water main on our road, and it took out our electricity. So for 3 days we had no running water, no electricity. It didn't bother us because we were prepared if something happened. We're prepared because at least once a year we go 5 to 10 days without electricity in the wintertime. So we're ready for it if we need to. Everybody knows what a Coleman camping stove is? They can run off propane, or we've got one that you can get from Gander Mountain that's about 2 foot by a foot. It's got 2 burners on top, a little oven on it, runs off a barbecue thing with an extra special hose, and you can cook and bake on it and everything. If you go on Amazon and look up water heaters, they've got a little kettle that you put on with a valve on the bottom. You pour the water in the top, and you can heat water in it, and it drains out the bottom, and it holds 5 gallons. You can put it on your wood stove, you can put it over a campfire. It's stainless steel. So we have that sort of thing because we go camping. So I just went out to the camping trailer and got it. So if you've got a house that's got a wood heat, you've got no problem taking care of your water problems or electricity if you got a way to get the water out of the creek, out of the well, or whatever. If you don't have water that you can use, that you can get out of a well, I would suggest getting you 4 or 5 of those big 5-gallon water things and putting them back somewhere. And rotate them every 90 days. So buy one today, wait 2 weeks, buy another one, put the date on the little rubber cap, the blue cap that you take off. And so that when you start rotating them, about every 90 days you want to rotate them. Because the water will start to get a little stale and it'll start to pull a little of the plasticky taste. There is an expiration date on bottles of water. Have you noticed that? FEMA buys it by the truckload. Indiana Department of Homeland Security buys it by the semi-load. They've got probably 2 semi-loads out of 5 points that is expired. So whenever we go to the city, we get 20 or 30 cases and bring back to the training center at where I work, and we make coffee with it, we drink it. It is expired, but it's not 3 years old yet, so it's still good. But it has to have a sell-by date. The canned goods that you get in the store have a sell-by date. But that doesn't mean they're no good and throw them away after the date that they expire. Vegetables and fruits. And my drink, please. Is there any left in it? Yeah, thank you. They last about, the fruits last about 6 or 7 months past the sell-by date. Excuse me, I talk and I get hoarse. And the vegetables, they're good for about a year. As long as the cans aren't bulging, they're not leaking, and when I open them, they don't go kapop and spray me, I'll eat them. Now, I got a guy that works with me named Chip. He used to be a SEAL with SEAL Team 2, and then he was an Indiana State Trooper, so that tells you where his mind is. If it's in the refrigerator at work, and it's not moldy, or hadn't turned green like the lettuce in it, he'll eat it. It could be 2 weeks old. The tacos that he ate Friday were at least 2 weeks old. But he goes in there, he sniffed them, he looked at them, said, oh, these are okay, and he ate them. Now me, I would have passed. But a lot of people eat a lot of things they wouldn't think about when there's nothing else available. And if you've got food, and you've got water, and your neighbors don't, they're going to come try to take it away. So you've got a house, you've got a place to cook, you've got a place making water. Now we need a way to defend it. Because if you've got it, and that's the other thing I'm thinking about that. If you've got food, and you're taking care of your family, and you're out in the middle of nowhere, I'm a man tracker for the state. And I can go out in the woods, chasing somebody, or looking for somebody, and I can smell them. I can walk into your house, and if you ladies have baked bread in the last 2 days, I can tell you've been baking bread in the last 2 days. If you had fish in the last 2 days, I can say they fried fish in the house. If you're coffee drinkers, I can tell by walking past you and smelling your breath that you drink coffee. That's not that you have bad breath.
It's just that coffee drinkers have a special aroma about them. Okay? And so when you don't have anything to eat, or you've been out in the woods or on the farm and you're out plowing, you start coming towards the house, and mama's been in there cooking, or grandma's in there cooking. I'm out half a block away and I can smell the food from out there. Remember, when things get bad, other people will be able to smell what you're cooking. So you have to think about that. If you're going to cook at night. Smoke travels. Okay? Light travels. Now, we've got blackout curtains. Back in the day during World War II, my mom will tell you that they made everybody put blackout curtains. There's light discipline. I have them because if something happens and I have to go outside, I don't want people to be able to see in my house if I've got the lights on, because then I'm a target. It's not that I'm paranoid, I'm careful. Because you never know. We used to have a sticker on our vehicles that showed, mine was blue because I'm an officer now, it wasn't listed before it was red. But if you're military, you'd have a little blue sticker, left lower part of your windshield. Mine said Camp Atterbury, it had a number, it was blue. And that meant when I went through the main gate with the MPs, they would salute me. It was really nice. Now the Army says no more stickers. They're telling veterans, do not put veteran plates on your vehicles because you become a target for terrorists. And it's true with everything going on in the world. The government right now's main concern with the different countries is EMP and nuclear biological warfare. Remember the plane that disappeared that they say they found parts of recently? Well, they're saying they found parts of it. That particular model plane, there's been 14 of them disappeared. So it's simple to me to say they took a part off of this one and they put it on this other one, and then they put this out there to say we found the plane. But did they find it or not? I don't know. But a suitcase nuke in a regular commercial airline up above at 14,000 feet, all the electrical grid's gone. Nothing in the United States per se is fully hardened. Even the military vehicles, they've got a few hardened Humvees and Amarams, but that's it. The helicopters, some of them are, some of them aren't. The Marine Corps are. The Navy's aren't at all, and some of the Army ones are and some aren't. Your automobiles, if you got newer than, was it 86, 84?
86, 84.
84, and we get a nuclear blast, you're walking. Now, I'm going to pick on you and don't take it personal. See the shoes she's wearing? They look nice and comfy, but you better have a pair of walking shoes in the vehicle. Because if you don't, and things break down, and you got to walk a mile to get home, or 2 miles, or 5 miles, those may not hold your feet up for that length of time. I mean, I normally have a pair of combat boots in every vehicle. And I'm not going to do this, we put everybody around a table, and we do the what's in your pockets for the military people. And then I'll go along and say, you're going to die, you're going to die, you're going to die, you'll make it 2 days, you're going to die. Because by what's in your pockets, I know if you're going to have enough stuff to survive. Because sometimes the only thing you've got is what's in your pockets. Now, I'm this close to my truck. You're this close to your vehicle. So if Bob is in your car or your truck, you're okay. Bob is your bug out bag. Never leave home without Bob. In your bug out bag should be 3 days worth of food, fire starters, some type of weaponry if you don't carry a gun all the time, some type of a tarp to make it an improvised shelter, some 550 cord. Anybody know what 550 cord is? Paracord? Paracord is wonderful stuff. You can take it apart, you can use it for fishing line. The red or the colored string on the inside, that is your shooter string. That's what you use to sew people up with. Everything else you use for other stuff. But the colored one, and that's how you know it's true paracord, when you cut it open, it's not just 5 pieces of white string or 6, it's got the colored string also. Excuse me, and there's a lot of knockoffs. My wife took both my paracord bracelets this evening because I've been out setting 6x6 posts today, and I was sweaty, and I took them off to take a shower, and I went to get them put back on. They're in the washing machine. She says, they stink. And she was right, they were getting a little ripe. I was going to wash them out, put them back on, but wives are that way. Mothers are that way. Shave before you go, put on clean underwear, put on clean socks, because this may be 2 or 3 days before you get to change again. Okay? For those of us that shave, all right? I shaved last week. I just don't grow very fast. Those of you who wear eyeglasses or need glasses to read, I have to have glasses to read. But I can see them half mile down the road to shoot. So these are my $2 specials from CVS. But I probably got 20 sets of them. Hidden here and hidden there, on my desk, and in my truck, and in my car. Because you may need them. Go to, how many of you guys have been to the NAN store, Harbor Freight? Okay? Talk to Red Green, you know, Harbor Freight, and duct tape. Harbor Freight has got a thing that you put on your head. It's got a little tightener thing. It's got a set of magnifiers. I think they're $7. Get you a set. The magnifying glasses flip up, but you can see with your regular glasses. But if you're sewing somebody up, or if you're looking in a cut, looking for debris, or you're trying to dig out a splinter, or if you're trying to thread a needle, or put string in a fishing hook, and your eyes are a little tired, them things can be lifesavers. Plus, if they're in your bug out bag, if you turn them up in the sun and adjust them right, you can start a fire. They're good for all kinds of things. I like these survivalists, they got their flint and steel. I got my flint and steel, I can start a fire. Sure, you can if you know what you're doing, you've practiced. Now my bug out bag, I got flint and steel, but I also got a little propane torch. Weighs 7 ounces, for goodness sake. Pay the $9, get the propane torch, and in soaking wet weather you'll start a fire. I'm going to give you a scenario. I want to see what you do. You're in the woods. You get a call on the radio. You've got a storm front coming in with freezing rain and be turning into snow. Okay? What are you going to do? You can't get back from there to your car. What's first? Thank you. Are you going to build a shelter? Are you going to start a fire? What's your first thing you're going to do? How many think shelter? Y'all are going to die. Why is that wrong? If you start building the shelter and the freezing rain gets to you first, you won't be able to get a fire started. You always start the fire and then build the shelter. Start the fire, start dragging in wood, because you can dry out with the fire. And you can dry the wood out. And we've done this because the National Emergency Service Academy for the Civil Air Patrol, that's one of the things we teach, is how to survive in inclement weather, because we go out on searches for down plains and stuff in the mountains. Always the fire first. If you have more than one person, you put 1 or 2 guys making the fire and dragging firewood, and put the other guys putting up the shelter. And make it where the fire is in front of the shelter so the heat reflects off the back of the shelter. Find a down tree, whatever. I like asking that question because not everybody gets it right. I didn't get it right the first time. I said, I can start the fire, so we were talking about that, and he took a bucket of ice water and threw it on me. And every time I tried to light it, he threw water on me. He said, the storm's here, and he kept throwing water on me. I said, okay, you win. I'll start a fire first next time. You learn these things by experience. They say experience is the best teacher, right? That's true. If it's somebody else's experience you're learning from. But if you're paying the stupid tax, which I call experience, if you're paying the stupid tax, it's not the best teacher. Let somebody else pay the stupid tax and learn, and you learn from their mistakes. So that's what I do. I'm trying to learn. And we never quit learning as we're going. So we want to have shelter, we want to have heat. Clothing. what you wear, your apparel. In the Bible, it told us, in the Old Testament, what did they not do with clothing? The materials. They didn't mix it. Why? Because different materials had different things that they were good at. If you take a wool blanket and you cut a hole in it, stick your head through it, and it's pouring down rain, what happens? The blanket gets wet, right? And it gets extremely heavy. And you can be soaking wet under that, but you're warm. Because wool is like canvas. As it gets wet, it tightens up. You know, if you go into a canvas tent when you're a Boy Scout and you're younger, you're sitting in the tent, and I love this. My dad was a scout leader. My brother and I were scouts. The guy next to me says, whatever you do not touch the top of the tent with your finger. If you do, it will cause a leak. I said, you're crazy. It's not leaking. So what I do, I reached over above his sleeping bag and I went, zzz, and it started pouring in right there where I touched it. I didn't understand that. The Army has what's called lister bags, which are big canvas bags. They hang from a tree, and they fill full of water and throw a chunk of ice in, and they have little valves on the bottom to fill your canteen. And so they hang these at the different ranges, and they're canvas bags. We've got canvas bags that we fill full of water. When you first fill them up, the water just keeps pouring out until they get soaked, and then they seal up. And we use those when we go camping. In pre-1840 stuff, you can't have modern things like tin cans and tin buckets, so we have the canvas buckets. On a ship, they used to have, on the wooden ships, they would have canvas buckets for water. Because once the water was gone, they could collapse the bucket and it took up less space. So we all learn different things as we go through life. So we got to have shelter, we got to have water, we got to have heat. So if you're going to heat with wood, you do not want to use this year's wood. You want to cut it a year in advance. Okay? Because what happens? Green wood does what to your chimney? Creosote. Now I own my own chimney brushes. And I own my own rods. Because I learned the hard way about chimney fires. And so I've learned how to do that. Excuse me. And once a month, in the wintertime, sometimes twice a month, I shut the stove down, I go up and I rot it out and clean it out. It's just to be safe. And sometimes I get up there and it's clean as a whistle. Other times I get up there and it's that thick. You never know. But if it isn't running right, and I always have a way to put the fire out. Whether it's a fire extinguisher, or it's a chimney, a log that you throw in the fire, and shut the stove down and sucks the oxygen out. In emergency, 2 road flares into the fire and shut the thing. I don't know why, but 2 road flares will put out a fire. You think they're a road flare, they're going to burn. But if you shut the draft down so it can't pull the oxygen, they take so much oxygen they put the fire out. And I learned that off the state trooper guy. And so you can learn something off the dumbest person in the world. Even if it's something, knowing that they taught you something you shouldn't do. Food, shelter, water, defense. Right? Preparedness is biblical. I've talked about that, I think. Well, let me cover something there too, and then I'll get to the defense. I've been told, and I've had people throw this at me, being prepared is a lack of faith. If my faith in God is strong enough, He's going to take care of me. Well, I hope you got real strong faith. Because if God said, do this to Joseph, or He told the watchman on the wall to warn people, or He's giving you that knowledge that you should prepare for something.
Or Noah.
Yeah, Noah, build the ark. But Lord, I don't want to build the ark. How long can you tread water, Noah? You know? What are they called? The Mormons, they got a book out. It's called Preparedness. You can get it on the internet. Tells you how much food you need for a whole year for family of 4. It breaks it down by how many cans of beans, how many gallons of honey, how many things of oil, everything. And it's a amazing amount. It'll fill a 1-car garage. And they're expected to have 2 years worth of food for their families. That's what they're taught. from the time they're little kids. Prepare. But what I was getting at in their book, it talks about the guy that was the captain of the ward softball team, and his wife's telling him to build the ark. He says, I'm the captain of the ward softball team. I'm an elder. God's not going to let that happen to me. And he goes on and on and on. Finally, when the flood starts, everybody's run and there's no lumber left. I mean, if God's telling you to do something, listen. And if He's telling you not to do something, listen. I mean, if the book says it, I got a real simple philosophy. It's in the Bible, and it says it, it's good to go. If it says don't do it, don't do it. If it says do it, do it. And if you take care of it, if that's all you do is follow that instruction book, you're going to live a long and happy life, if that's the will of the Lord, and you're not going to get in a lot of trouble. But if you go against the precept of what the book says, you're toast. Defensiveness. I work with Department of Corrections. And one of the things we teach and we're taught is how to defend ourselves against knives, which they call shivs in prison, and clubs and things like that. And you've all seen the Karate Kid, wax on, wax off, paint the fence, all this stuff. There's a lot of truth to what he's doing there in the moves and stuff. But we right now, you got 2 weapons on you that I can see. You've got one, and I'm just looking at you. You've got one that I can see. She's got 3 that I can see. She's got one. He's got one. You've got one. The Navy SEALs have a rule called Rule of Twos. 2 is 1, 1 is none. If you don't have at least 2 weapons, you got nothing. If you don't have at least 2 ways to start a fire, you got nothing. If I'm out in the woods with Eric and he forgot his stuff, and I've got 2, I got one I can share. If I like him and I want him to live. But you would not think of the things that are weapons. Now I can go on an airplane and carry a gun because I got the right credentials. But if I couldn't carry the gun on the airplane, I would at least have a couple things that take care of things. I'd have an ink pen. I'd have comb. I'd have glasses. I'd have something. I got shoelaces. Now, most people think nothing about a comb. That's one of the meanest weapons you can carry. It's one of the most dangerous things you can carry. It's worse than a knife. If I take that and I take a rake across the top of your nose or under your nose, if I get you on the nose with it and pull your head back, you will bleed to death before they can get you to a hospital. Unless there's a doctor on site and they can get it clamped down. If I rip you across the forehead with it, the teeth like that, and I'm putting pressure on it, the blood's going to get in your eyes, you can't see anything. If I catch you under the ear, it's going to mess you up. Little plastic comb. People don't think about it. An ink pen, I can kill you with an ink pen. I can hurt you bad. I can disarm you with an ink pen, shove it in your elbow, shove it in the side of your kneecap. You're going to go down. You're not going to be fighting with me. There's other places I can put it too that's going to hurt. Shove it in the guy's ear, he's going down, he ain't getting up. Shove it up through a nostril, he's dead. Those are just simple defensive things that all this TSA stuff is worthless because these aren't things they stop you from carrying. You know why you're not allowed to have a can of soda on the airplane now? Yes. They pour it in a paper cup. They won't let you have the can. You know why? I can take that aluminum can and rip it in half and I got a knife to cut you with. Somebody said that at a TSA meeting. Big guy about my size, he smashed it and was going like this and ripped it in half. He says, "What about the aluminum cans there, sir?" Now nobody can have a can of soda. They got to pour it in the thing. That's why they don't have bottles on there, except the little whiskey bottles, and you can't buy those anymore. They pour it in your cup because I can smack that and break it, and I can cut you with it. Your eyeglasses are a weapon. There's all kinds of things people don't think about. John's got a belt buckle about that big around. It's a big John Deere tractor belt buckle. He wears it on the airplane. He has to take his belt off, run it through the conveyor, takes his shoes off, he puts that back on. I said, why in the world do you have a 6-pound belt buckle? So we was out there, we put up a gallon jug of Jell-O. He swung that on that belt and hit that and busted that Jell-O bucket clean in half. I said, I know what it's for now. We don't think about things like that because we're Americans people respect us, they're afraid of us, right? Not anymore. We got people in this country that shouldn't be in this country, come from places they shouldn't be coming from. And so we got to be concerned with that. We got to be concerned with the terrorism aspects. And you can't tell who they are because they're assimilating into they dress like us, they talk like us, and you got to be careful. I saw a squirrel. He had flashy lights, so I went off and told you, I'm sorry. So the government's worried about terrorism as far as EMPs, biological, nuclear, Ebola. Haven't heard about the Ebola lately, have we? It's still out there. I still get briefings that there's still cases going on, but they've been sucking the people in and keeping them out of sight and out of the mainstream. You'll read on the internet, if you get in the wrong sites or the good right sites, so and so people have disappeared. This whole family just gone. That's because one of them was sick and they took the whole family. And I have people, our government wouldn't do that. We got rights. You ain't got no rights. How many of you think got constitutional rights right now? We have what's called the rights to remedy under the Constitution. But the United States government has not been under the Constitution since 1934 when it went bankrupt. We're under bankruptcy law, Title 18 or 28, one of the two. Whatever it is, but we're under bankruptcy laws. You go into court and say, I want my constitutional rights. He said, which one do you want? You don't have that one. What do you mean? It was done away with. The stock market, have you been watching the stock market? Is bad. I get paid on Friday in the morning because it's required by the state of Indiana for you to have direct deposit. You don't get a choice. It's directly to put in your account. My check goes in. As soon as it shows up on my computer, I go to the bank machine, it comes out. There's $5 in my checking account. I don't leave any more than that in there. We are going to have what's called an exchange of currency. It's a done deal. The Amero dollar has already been printed. It showed up in one of the local banks by accident, and there was a big mess, and they recalled it real quick because somebody screwed up. They're not ready to put it in place yet. But when it happens, it's going to be 2 for 1, 6 for 1, 10 for 1, whatever. They cannot keep pumping the stock market up, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get the post between us, like they've been doing, and expect it to hold up. If Greece goes under, we go under. If Venezuela, Argentina, France, and Italy, Greece, Venezuela, Argentina, and France are all in trouble right now. Bad trouble. And if any one of those goes under, the other 4 will go under, and we'll go under. We're so tied to China right now. When China's markets went down 2 weeks ago, or no, last week, our stock market took a $1,000 dump the first day, dropped $1,000 the second day, and rebounded. Now, it rebounded towards the end of the week, but not what it lost. We're not back up to zero yet. China lost everything, all its profit that it's made since mid-2014 in its crash that it just had. Everything they made in profit is gone, wiped out. Now, what did they really lose? Or what did we really lose? Not a thing, because we don't, unless you got money in the stock market, and if you do, I'm sorry, but there's nothing tangible there. It's all paper money. It's all electronic. It's all electrons. There's nothing there. If you go to a local bank right now, I'm going to sell you my car, okay? You're going to give me a check for $5,000. I'll go to the bank and your check's good, okay? And I'm going to ask the bank for $5,000. They're going to tell me it may be 2, 3, 4 days before they can come up with it. I can have a savings account balance of $10,000. I can walk in there and ask for my money. And they're going to say, we don't keep that kind of cash at the bank. Okay? And then my answer to them is, then lock the doors. Because by the federal law, you got to have enough money to cover the deposits in your bank. If you don't have, you're insolvent, lock the door. Local man lives here in town, went up to Chicago, excuse me, took 4 gold $20 bills, or $20 gold pieces, and took 4 $20 gold certificates. Remember silver certificates and gold certificates? He walked in to the Chicago Federal Reserve Bank. He says, I've got my gold certificates. I want my 4 $20 gold pieces. We don't have that kind of money. He said, I want my gold. They had to shut that Federal Reserve Bank down. They could not reopen it until they could come up with the gold pieces that those notes were for. It's a loophole in the federal law. Up in northern Indiana, they had a sale, and I could get you the information if you want to see it, where they were selling a farm, a family farm, and the guys got behind, they didn't have the money, and there were about 14 or 15 guys went up there with silver dollars and gold dollars. And after they got inside for the auction, they passed them all off to one guy, and the guy bid on the farm, but they were bidding, and it was up to $100,000. And this other guy bid whatever it was, like $30 or $40 in gold and silver. And the people over here laughed at him. The auctioneer stopped, and the guy quoted the law, saying gold and silver trumps debt notes. And because it's real money, that's fake. He bought that farm. They gave it back to the family. You know, so you got to be careful. If you're going to worry about the exchange of money that's going to be coming, and I tell people this, and they look at me like I've got two heads. Quarters, dimes, nickels. If you got extra money, put it in quarters, dimes, and nickels, because they can't reboot all the machines. Okay? All the vending machines, all the washers and dryers, anything that takes coinage. Cokes machines, cigarette machines. Okay? When they exchange the money, it's going to be paper money for paper money, script for script. When it was done back during the Korean War overseas, when it was done during World War II, the coins stayed the same. Script was changed for script. So coin money will still be good. I have in my wallet a 19, I think it's a 42 silver quarter. I always keep a piece of silver quarter on me everywhere I go, even if that's the only thing I've got, because then they can't get me for being vagrant. As long as you have silver or gold on you, you can't be considered a vagrant. Now, is that any good if the cop doesn't want to obey it? Nope. He who has the might makes the rules. And I don't want to know, but if they come to say, we have declared martial law, we're coming for your guns, and we're going to bring you food, and we'll give you a receipt, and you'll get real money for it later, I personally wouldn't trust them, because I know what's going on. So we're going to talk about defense here. Each one of you gentlemen and ladies should know how to use a weapon, as far as a pistol and a rifle and a shotgun. Somebody small like yourself, you won't need a 12 gauge. Get a 410. Get a 20 or 16. Okay? But have one. Know how to use it. Be willing to use it. If you cannot wrap your mind around taking a life when somebody's attacking you, don't have a gun. There are people, and I've got the most respect for them, that would give their own life before they take somebody else's life. But I'm telling you, if they're coming after my wife, they're coming after my kid, my grandkids, I'm going to defend them. Our church, I'm the security guy for our church. We know who comes in, who goes out. We're going to start, as soon as we get the cameras up, there's going to be a buzzer put in the sound booth, and I'll be able to look on a screen in my sound booth, and the doors are going to be locked 5 minutes after service starts. Fairhaven Christian Church now locks their doors after the kids are there on Wednesday. The kids got to be in there by 9:15. At 9:30, all the doors are locked. You cannot get in from the outside unless somebody lets you in. There's a lot of churches that are going to this because during service, if you're all church-going people, you know the Lord gets moving, we get worshiping. We're not really concerned with what's going on out here usually. So if you've got Muslims, and I'll call a spade, or people that are Black Lives Matter, whatever, want to cause problems, and they want to make a statement, or somebody is mad and is going to go postal somebody in your church, and your doors are wide open, you got a problem. And if your church doesn't have somebody, if you're licensed to carry and you don't carry, you're wrong. Doesn't do you a bit of good to have a license to carry a gun if you don't carry it. You carry your insurance because you're going to need it when you don't know you're going to need it. Your sidearm, your knife, whatever, is your insurance. Okay? and I get in a lot of problems with people over that. Well, I'm in church. Okay. Out, was it Colorado? Was out west somewhere 3 years ago, 4 years ago. The preacher's up on the platform preaching. It's a mega church. Guy came in, shot him, shot 2 or 3 other people. How many police officers were there? Anybody know besides me? In that congregation, they had 7 police officers. They went to church there. You know where their guns were? In their cars. What good did that do? You come into my church to attack my pastor? Heaven help you. Even if you get me first. There are 3 ladies in our church carrying guns that I know of because we've talked. And one of them, I would never have imagined her having a gun. She's the most petite, sweet little thing, very meek, but she says they are not going to take our children. That's just her attitude. So, if you've got a license to carry, carry. And if you're going to carry, you should be putting 50 rounds a month downrange minimum. That's a minimum. I put 500 rounds a month downrange. I can shoot with either hand. If you can't shoot with either hand, and I'm looking at you because I bet you can't, because you looked at me when your eyes got big when I said that. You need to learn to shoot with your offhand. You know why? Because if you're over here, and this is your good hand, and you're looking around this corner, you're fine. But maybe you got to be on this side, and you're going to put your whole body out here? No. Learn to shoot with either hand. The other thing, if you're not shooting a rifle for long distance, I don't want to see this. Both eyes open. Why? Depth perception, peripheral vision. Put your fingers out and go like this. How far out can you see? I can see out to here, 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 okay? But if I'm this way, and over here something's happened, I got one eye shut, everything happened over here is out of my sight. If you're going to have to shoot somebody, you shoot to kill. 3 good reasons. Number 1, they cannot get up and shoot you again. Or shoot back. Number 2, they cannot sue you. Okay? And number 3, if you kill them, they can't yell for help. Okay? And I always double tap. So I was telling law enforcement, telling police, in the military, 2 shots. I shoot the perp, check this way, come back, make sure he's still not moving. If he's moving again, I'll shoot him again, and go back over this way. Always double check. If you've lost count of how many rounds you got, what do? Reload. And if you've got a sidearm, you should have 2 spare magazines. In the heat of a situation, mine carries 17 rounds in the mag and 1 in the chamber. Okay? So if I've gone through a few and I've lost track, what do? I drop the 1, slap a fresh 1 in. Then I know I got 17 rounds, so I can pick that one up and stick in my pocket if I got time. For my 1 Glock, I have a 50 round drum, a 42 round stick, 3 17 round magazines. So why do you need a 50 round drum? If I'm going into a firefight against somebody and they're counting rounds, when I get to 17 or 18, I said, I gotta reload. They're gonna pop their head up. I still got a few to shoot at them. It's always thinking, it's always evolving. As you start practicing and you're doing stuff, do things to get in shape. If you can't leave right now and walk home from here, if you had to, then you need to start walking every day and getting into shape. Guys, if you got a bug out and you can't carry your 80-pound bug out bag, then you start putting a 10-pound bag on, do some walking. Take it up to 20 pounds, take it up to 30 pounds. Decide what you need. What do you need to get on? Maybe you only live a block away. Maybe you only live a half mile away. For me, it's 16 miles from right here to my house. So if I left here on foot right now, I'd be midnight getting home, but I'd make it. If I could walk straight through. I don't think that ain't going to happen. If stuff hit the fan, it'd take me 3 days to do that 16 miles. Because I wouldn't be out in the daylight. I'd be very careful. I wouldn't want to run into anybody. It's all about perception and seeing what you're doing. Shotguns, Great thing for home defense. What are the 7 magic words to keep you out of trouble with the police and the courts? If something happens, the 7 magic words. I was in fear for my life. Remember those 7 words if you ever pull a gun. Or somebody pulls a knife and you shoot them. I was in fear for my life. That's your get out of jail free. They have to prove that in your mind you weren't afraid. If he comes up in the dark and I see something flash on him, it could be a pin in his hand, and I didn't know him, sorry about your luck, brother. If I'm afraid, I would shoot you. If I'm in fear for my life, I was in fear for my children's life, my wife, and Indiana's got castle doctrine, you know. You're allowed now to protect your home and property. Werner's ginger ale, by the way, this is the best ginger ale you can get. It's made in oaken buckets before it's put in the cans, aged in oak, like good whiskey. Because you look like a man that would appreciate a good ginger ale. I got a friend, we train cadaver dogs, narcotics, explosive dogs where I work. That's what I do for a living, is we train dogs, among other things. And so the people from Wisconsin bring me cheese curds. The people from Minnesota bring me ginger ale. The lady from Boston brings me these big crocks of baked beans. And I got one from Maine that when she comes down twice a year, we get a lobster. Because they fly in here to train with us, and it doesn't cost them anything, so being nice to us, they bring us gifts. Now, as you're going through here, and you're thinking about stuff, everything in the world, my brother Joe says, Charles Daniel, it's all about relationships. And that's the way it is here. It's all about relationships. What is your community? What is your church group? Who do you work with? Who do you deal with? If they were in trouble, who would you call if you were in trouble and you didn't have family around? Your pastor? Probably, or a brother from the church. Mm-hmm. Because that's what you should do. Your church family is family, just as like they were blood family. In my case, some of them are better than blood family. Okay? But that is just the way it is. Then that's the way it should be. If you don't trust the people you're going to church with, if you can't say, I can turn my back on him and be safe, then maybe you're not in the right place, or you guys have got an issue, you need to work it out. And it was Matthew 12:18. There's a scripture that says, if you got a problem with a brother or sister, go to that brother or sister. We ain't got no business gossiping to everybody in the church or everybody in the city. We go to that brother and sister, we work it out. If we can't work it out with that brother and sister, then we go to the pastor or somebody like that. We don't go to all the other saints. And I'm done meddling here. Apologize if I stuck my foot where I shouldn't. I don't know nothing about your people. But this is something I've been really pushing with different groups. Because I find in the military that Sergeant so-and-so did so, and he tells everybody and their brother what Sergeant so-and-so did against him. And I like to grab him by the throat and shake him good and hard and say, listen, if you got a problem with Sergeant Johnson, you and Sergeant Johnson go work it out. Nobody else needs to have your dirty laundry hanging out. Because I sure don't want mine out there. Okay? So we've got to keep it up. Keep it up. Relationships are important. Build relationships. Let's talk about electricity. That'll be my final thing for this evening. How many of you got a backup plan for electricity if the power goes down? What do you got?
Generator.
Okay. How are you going to fuel it?
It's there.
Okay. Let's say we get EMP blast today. 6 months down the road, you don't know gasoline. How are you going to fuel it?
It's there.
Invert gasifier?
Huh?
Invert gasifier?
It's
Wood
there.
gasification?
It's there. Just
Okay.
trust me.
Well, the reason I'm bringing this up, how many of you know what a gasifier is?
Biofuel, things of that nature as well.
Well,
So,
this is what you put together. It burns wood, trash, garbage.
gas
Carbon
bomb.
monoxide is flammable. Did you know that? So a gasifier, it's called an invert gasifier. Look it up on the internet. I've got a 3-ring binder full of it with the plans and everything, how to build it. Back during the World War II, when there was fuel shortages, you would have seen out here in a lot of the farms, they had this thing that looked like a garbage can on the side of a tractor, a John Deere tractor. I got pictures of it, where they would burn to start a fire in it, and to get the fire going, and then they start the blower, then they would start the engine, and the engine would run off of the carbon monoxide from the fire. We've built, Eric and I and our other brother, have built some invert gasifiers to run generators off of. They're cheap to build, they're easy to build, they run great on generators, at least to 1,500 to 4,500 watts. Bigger the generator, more horsepower you need, the bigger the gasifier you need. But it's just twigs and stuff, and charcoal once the charcoal's up. And you just got a filter on it to keep the stuff from getting in there. If you look up wood-burning trucks, in 1978 and in 1982, Mother Earth News put out an article where they took a Chevy pickup truck and they built a gasifier in it and they drove it across country back and forth. And the article is still in their archives, you can get it. So it can be done. Now be advised, if you've got a generator or you've got a gasifier and the stuff has hit the fan, it's going to get bad because you're making noise and you're now a target. If we get EMP blasted, if we get attacked by terrorists or whatever, hunker down, make no noise, no light, be as silent as mice for the first 30 to 60 days. Because all heck is going to break loose. If right now, and they've been having trouble with EMB, the cards, the electronic bank, EBT cards or whatever they are. They're having trouble with those. You take all these welfare people in the city, they're on these, the gimme that's what I call them, black, white, Chicano, whatever they are. Doesn't matter. The people are on welfare and taking the free money, they don't work, that have the big screen TVs, that drive nicer cars than me, that wear fancier clothes than me. You take away their welfare check. They get their money on the 4th of this month, or next month. Let's say they don't get it. The government's broke, and suddenly they don't give away the free money they've been getting for the last 20 years, or their families at 4th generation welfare. I deserve that. We've been on welfare for 40 years. It's ours, it's mine, we deserve it. You can't take it away. I've heard this. I've heard people say that. They don't get it. What do? They burn their own neighborhood down. Now, and it's like in Ferguson, I don't understand this. If I'm mad at you, I am not burning my neighborhood down. I'm going to go to your house and burn you down. It makes no sense for me to be there where there's problems and burn my own neighborhood down. And burn the Walmart, burn the CVS, and burn the drugstores down, and the hairdressing place where they get their nails done and all that. And then they go, why did all the businesses leave? Where am I going to get my beer? I burnt the what do you call it? The soul service booze place down. What do they call them? Liquor store. You can tell I don't drink. But they burn all these places down. It's their own neighborhood. This just doesn't make good sense to me. But when they're rioting, if you've got something and they see that you've got it, they're going to want it. And they'll take it any way they can. So we tell people as we're doing terrorist classes, if we get attacked by terrorists, get home, hunker down, stay home, stay off the roads, let them burn each other to death and fight each other to death, stay out of it. Don't be the hero, take care of your families. Does that mean if I see them attacking some poor little young lady, I might not take a chance and waste a 30-cent cap? I might. But I'd be careful about it. So that's where we're at. I mean, I could go on for about another 6 hours, but I'm not going to do that to y'all. A wise preacher friend of mine said, the mind can only absorb as much as the butt can handle. When the butt goes to sleep and the boys can't wake up the two cheeks, you're done. If you can't get it out in an hour, you're done. And I take it to heart when he said that. And that was when I was in Bible college. One of the professors said that. And I believe him. Any questions for me? And I'm going to give Eric about 5 minutes to talk about, if you don't mind, about herbal foods and stuff in the woods, because he knows all that a lot better. I'll survive, and I got my books, but I could just take him out with a gunny sack, and he can make lunch. And it makes it a lot easier. Take yourself a couple minutes or whatever, and if they don't mind. Is that all right with y'all?
You're not going to scare them, are you, tonight?
Oh, well, after you do that, I will read you the things that are forecast to happen in September. I forgot about that.
All right. I've been lucky to teach the Search and Rescue Conference a couple times in other places about wild foods for search and rescue. So if you're dropped in the middle of the forest, say a state park, and there's 5,000 acres around you, you can survive with nothing but your pack. Most people don't realize that simple things such as acorns are highly nutritious. Native American house would harvest 500 pounds a year for a family of 6. One family of 6, 500 pounds would last the whole season. One, the shells are hermetically sealed, so they don't go bad. You have to double blanch them. It makes a nutritious flour that's more nutritious than anything you're going to buy in the store. It's oat flour, acorn flour, and it's out there. It's plentiful. It's free. Learning to live off the land. When I was cobbing citizens on the battlefield out here, I wouldn't take my lunch. I'd take salad dressing. I'd harvest right off the range, and it confused people because I'm out there picking all these weeds, what they consider weeds. But they have chicory, they have wild lettuce, they have burdock out there, and I make a big salad and sit there and chow down on it. Wild onions. So there's plenty of food out there, like cattails is very plentiful. Most people drive by and never see them. But if you learn at least 5 plants a month, just 5, really learn them where you can drive along the highway and pinpoint them as you're going by, and you do that for a year, you're going to have enough knowledge to keep yourself and your family alive with no other supplies but a small digging implement, a knife, and something to cook in. I mean, the Creator gave us all sorts of food out there. We don't have to starve to death. Anybody starves to death in this country's got to be an idiot. You know, being poor is no excuse to be a criminal. You know, if you're poor, go out and harvest along the ditch, go out in the fields and forage. You know, live off the land a little bit. It's good for you. You learn to respect it. There are medicines out there, medicine plants, healing plants. You have natural diuretics, like Dan was saying, burdock, chicory, are diuretics that used to treat your blood pressures. Mullein for pneumonia, scar tissue in the lungs. If you're quitting smoking, you take half your tobacco and mix it with half mullein and smoke that instead. You will heal the lungs while you're quitting smoking. If somebody has got a bronchitis, mullein tea will help cleanse the lung and replenish the pleural lining from it. I had double pneumonia in the Army and nearly took my life in '74. And when I got out of there, I made mullein tea right on the base and healed my own lungs because I knew the plant was there, and it was so easy to find. It's a big leathery plant. It's everywhere. It's free medicine. But the books are out there. You can really pull them up online, get to know them, get to understand that you don't have to be a slave to the pharmaceutical companies, and that getting healthy and staying healthy is a matter of choice. You know, what you put into the body is going to give you your fuel. And if you have somebody who's sick and they come to you, you heal them. So I'll turn it back over to him.
A quick thing here. I don't know, how many of you heard of Rabbi Jonathan Cahn? He's a Messianic Jewish rabbi, which means he's a Christian Jew. That's the only way I can put it. Well, we email him back and forth, and September is a really strange month coming up. And just for some upcoming events that may be coming up that thought you guys might be interested in, the ultra-Orthodox people are saying that September to the 12th of this year is when the Orthodox Jews are looking for the Messiah. You didn't believe in Jesus. They kind of got cheated somehow here because they missed out. So they're waiting for their Messiah to show up. And that's supposed to be September 12th of this year. The Shemitah the 7-year Jewish cycle that culminates or ends around September 13th. And if you listen to Rabbi Khan's thing on it, it talks about all the events that are going to happen for it. Rosh Hashanah, is Jewish New Year, starts September 13th. And then the creation of Adam and Eve is the September the 15th. The 5,775th Hebrew year ends September the 13th. And that's special because of a couple things we'll get to in a minute. Right now the UN is pushing to make Palestine a state and give them statehood. And the vote for that is September the 15th. And they're pushing to do that under a UN resolution. Jade Helm, for those of you that have heard of it, ends September the 15th. Now if you go out west into Texas, along the Panhandle corridor, there is a bunch of train cars out there that they use for hauling automobiles that have been refitted. And if you want to see the pictures, they are online. You can find them if you really are wanting to. But they got leg shackles and hand shackles in them. And we got friends that are out there in the military that took pictures, and it's really something. I didn't believe it until he told me about it. The International Day of Peace is September the 21st. You know, remember in 1 Thessalonians 5:3 where it says, when they start yelling peace and safety, look out. Well, that's September the 21st. And Yom Kippur Day, the Day of Atonement, also begins at sunset on September 21st and lasts through the 23rd. This year is the 70th Jubilee year, and that starts on September the 23rd. And so check Leviticus 25, 8 through 10 about that. The Day of Arafat, the Islamic pilgrimage to Mecca, begins September 22nd and 23rd. This is when all the Muslims are headed to Mecca. So if we want to solve this problem, drop a bomb on Mecca that weekend. Sorry, I shouldn't have said that aloud. I'm not sorry. The prophetic time cycle from Israel's recapture in June of 67 to September 23rd of 2015 falls in with what they think is Daniel's 49th and 70th verses. The Mayan time cycle of 5,126 years. And when you computed that as days from September 11th, 2001 to the 23rd of this year in September is the 5,126 days. And there are people that think that the Mayan calendar of the 5,126 years was specifically meant days after the 2011 when all the stuff's going to hit the fan. The CERN people are celebrating their International Year of Light to the fire, full power crossing open portholes of satanic things. And CERN Sesame, which is a synchronization light for experimental science and applications in the Middle East, is in Jordan. I think like Open Sesame, and people are saying, Christians, a lot of them are saying that is the opening of the bad place and things are going to come. You know, we battle not against flesh and blood, but against spirituality and principalities of darkness. Madonna is going to do her Rebel Heart Tour starting September the 9th. It opens in the U.S. September the 12th in D.C. And the opening theme is the desecration of the bride and the arrival of fallen angels. Okay? On September the 24th, Pope Francis is going to come here on his apostolic tour and address the U.S. Congress for the first time in history. He's not apostolic. He's not even a good Catholic, in personal opinion. Then on the 25th, he's going to address the U.S. or the UN General Assembly of World Leaders on sustainable development and announcement of the unification of world laws on environment, religion, and distribution of wealth. That means we work our butts off, they're going to take our money and give it to the lazy bums. Think Agenda 21 on growth hormones and things like that, and this will issue in cycle on it, which I don't know what it means, on September the 25th. The Pope is supposed to hold a Mass in Madison Square Gardens, New York City on the 25th. He concludes his trip to the U.S. in Philadelphia at the World Meeting of Families a global Roman Catholic event on the 26th and 27th. The French Foreign Minister Fabius and Secretary John Kerry are discussing that there were just 500 days left to end world climate. This is supposed to begin, according to Fabius, on May 14th of 2014, and the climate change thing was supposed to time limits up on September the 15th. And there's not been anything in it with the mainstream news, and they haven't asked the two of them what they've come up with. Tomorrow World, Tomorrowland Rave Concert and Festival, just outside of Atlanta, celebrates false loves, lights, keys, Antichrist, opening gates and portals, and that's the 25th and 27th. There's a lot of spiritual things going on in September that could be hazardous to our health. The Feast of the Tabernacles, which is one of the good things going on, goes from September 27th to October the 5th. September the 28th is the fourth of the 4 blood moons this year. And if you know what blood moons are, that's significant spiritually. The first bookend of the coming collapse of the US dollar, what they're saying is there's a lot of talk here right now within global and within the United States government that the US dollar is going to drop and collapse on September the 15th. The debt bomb is going to explode sometime in September 2015. David Morgan, who's a famous economist, wrote a book about it. Financial experts, they are warning that a great financial crisis is imminent. The Chinese president, whatever his name is supposed to come in September to visit us. Under the parable of the fig tree, one interpretation of how long a generation is 67 years. That added to 1948, when Israel became a state, is this year. This is computed on the Jewish calendar. It's only got 360 days a year. The Muslims are predicting the return of their
Mahdi.
yeah, who was the pedophile? What's his name?
No, the Mahdi is not Muhammad.
Okay. Anyway, this is an old prophecy of the Islamic prophet Ali bin Ibn Abi Talib or whatever, who said the Mahdi was supposed to be a tall black man, will rise up, take command of the West, command the most powerful army on the earth. Obama, we don't know. And finally, the Federal Reserve will likely announce on September 17th an increase to interest rates, the first one since December 08, jeopardizing a large portion of the $1 quadrillion in derivatives and triggering losses to the major banks that hold them. 27 different things that are predicted for September. I don't think if the Federal Reserve announces it on the 17th, it's going to make any difference if everything blows up on the 15th. Am I concerned with all these? Yeah, I'm concerned. Am I worried? Nope, the book says don't worry. So I don't have to worry about it because I'm doing my part, God will do his part. As long as I remember that, do my part, God does his, we're good to go. And so, am I being prepared? So if any of these things do happen, I have some spiritual insight or what I can do about it. Yeah, I try to take and be prepared. You got beans, bullets, Bibles, and Band-Aids. If you got those 4 things, beans meaning all the food, bullets is your defense, Band-Aids to put you back together, and Bibles is a spiritual thing. Number 1 on your list should be your spiritual. If you're not ready spiritually, none of the rest of it matters. So get ready spiritually, then it doesn't matter. Sudden death, sudden victory. But if I'm stuck here, then I'm going to have to protect my family and myself. I think the Old Testament story of Joseph and his family, what he went through, was written for us. And for today's Christians, because there's so many people that just don't know. And we as Christians are supposed to be telling other people, and that's part of witnessing. Witnessing isn't just going and taking a tract saying, here, get saved. Witnessing is let them see your life, see your actions, and see what you're doing, and saying, hey, this could happen. This is something you could do to help yourself. I'm not living in fear. I'm not trying to make y'all afraid, but I am advocating being ready. Only foolish people sit back and do nothing. If you got car insurance and house insurance, you're not totally foolish. You are thinking something could happen. If your faith in God is such that you know God's going to take care of you no matter what, quit spending the money on the car insurance and quit spending money on the house insurance. Because your faith is strong enough, you don't have to have it. I'll admit, I got faith, but I'm still going to carry car insurance. You know? Let me see if there's anything else I need to throw out at you guys, and then I'll stop. I know you guys that hunt and fish, hunting and fishing firearms. If you've got guns and you don't have a black powder gun, think about it. And there's a reason behind that. What's it take to make black powder?
Saltpeter, carbon,
Charcoal.
sulfur,
Charcoal, saltpeter, sulfur. Okay? Easy things to get on a farm or anything else. You can always make your own powder. A smoothbore muzzleloading rifle, a flintlock, if I can get the flint out of the creek, or creek for some of y'all Yankees. And I can always shoot pebbles out of it if I have to. Okay? If the balloon goes up, most people don't have 100,000 rounds of ammo laying around. And eventually, you're going to run out of bullets. So being able to make your own and make your own powder is a good thing. Knowing how to use a bow and arrow is a good thing. Knowing how to use a slingshot is a great thing. One of the things, thank you, that we've been teaching the Army guys is slingshots because they're quiet. They can be used in unconventional warfare, and we give them a bag of marbles. We don't use rocks with the slingshot for the military people. Do you know why? A glass marble hits you in the forehead. It shatters. The glass shreds. It causes maximum damage. A rock hits them in the forehead, it might knock them out. The glass marble leaves more problem for them. It shoots smoother. It aims better. It's got better trajectory. So we've learned as we're teaching unconventional warfare, slingshots and glass marbles. Wonderful things. You older people like myself, you're probably not near what I am. Eric would know what a poogie stick is.
punji.
Well, Panji, Pooji, crack. Okay? But we make improvised weapons. It's one of the things I teach to people. I teach a survival course for people going overseas for unconventional warfare. It's just something that you got to think outside the box.
And then burn the box.
But as you're doing stuff and as you're preparing, think about barter items. My barter item is fishing stuff. Every yard sale I go to, I buy the fishing poles, I buy the tackle boxes, stuff like that. Because if the stuff hits the fan, after everything levels out and blows over, whoever's left has still got to eat. There's still going to be rivers and creeks, and there's still going to be ponds and lakes. But how many people are going to think to put away a couple hundred extra feet of fishing line or 100 extra hooks?
Stockpile toilet paper too.
Yeah, that's
Same.
important.
It is.
And for those of you that are addicted to coffee, learn to like chicory, but put you back some coffee. Trading stock, you know. If the money system goes down, it's all going to be barter, right? So what is it people are going to want the most?
Coffee.
Coffee
And cigarettes.
and cigarettes,
Sugar.
alcohol. Now, I've actually put in the deep freeze 20 cartons of cigarettes. I don't smoke. But I know somebody sometime down the road will kill for one of those. They'll trade their next born kid to get a cigarette, some of them. I don't want their next born kid. But, you know, there are things that are valuable. A Roman soldier had a sword. How often did he sharpen the sword?
Every day.
Every day. If you carry a knife, it's sharpened. Hit it on a stone every day. You got a knife on you?
My grandma did that. She sharpened it every day. Why?
These little knives are one of the nicest little things. And I went through the Indiana Government Center metal detector. I got credentials so we can get stopped anyway. It didn't set it off. I don't know why. Okay? But it's a nice, it's a certain knife. You can get them with a different type of tip. They're $15. They hold a good edge. I've been cutting wire with it today and sharpening pencils. So when I get home tonight, I'll resharpen it. Never leave home without it. It's a good thing. Carry a flashlight. I got 2 flashlights in the vehicle. And you get the little dollar flashlights from Walmart. They got 3 AAA batteries and they're LEDs. Now, speaking of LEDs, these lights drive me nuts. How many of you got fluorescent lights in your house? The little squirrely spaghetti lights? Get rid of them. They're banned in France, Italy, and Great Britain. They cause cancer. They emit a mercury vapor. So, we don't have them in our house. We don't have incandescent. We got everything we got just changed over to LED. Because if we have to change it over and switch over to battery power or solar power, the bulb like this, an LED bulb is 7 watts. Each one of these fluorescent bulbs is 32 watts. One 7-watt LED bulb like this, 4 foot long, puts out more light than the 4. We dropped our electric bill at home by over $40 a month by switching out 15 bulbs from fluorescent to LED. The little LED rope lights that you buy, they got them at Harbor Freight that are solar rope lights. And then the yard lights, we stick them out in the daytime. The rope light we just roll up and hang them on the front porch. It's always charged up, the front porch always lights up. The little lights you stick in the ground, we put them in a milk crate upside down. You set it out at daytime to heat up, light up. And at nighttime, my wife brings them in, turns them so the charging light is flat on the floor. And she's got them through the hallways and in the bedroom for night lights. Doesn't cost you nothing. It's coming up towards the end of summer. Rural King, Tractor Supply, and all them will have them on sale for $1 a piece. Each one of them has a AAA or a AA battery in them. You can recharge rechargeable batteries in them for your other things. You know, everybody says, I can't afford a solar panel. I can't afford a rechargeable thing for rechargeable batteries. Heck, how many rechargeable batteries you need? They're right there. You can buy those lights cheaper than you can buy the rechargeable batteries. They go in them. Little things. And I'm sure you're all sitting there. Him, I know, I can see his wheels turn. There's things he's already done. He's already done that in my mind. And there's things he's thinking, I bet he didn't know about this, and I bet he hadn't tried this. And I'm all about learning new stuff, okay? I've talked for 2 hours, well, hour and 55 minutes. I'm sorry if I took you too long. Feel free to look at the 2 books. Any of the other books I brought, or Eric's got. If you want to get names off of them, feel free. I've got all kinds of other things you can look through in the big notebooks. If you just want to peruse them. If one of you guys wants to Xerox anything I got, I'll loan you the book and just get it back to me. Any questions for me? Is there anything I didn't cover that you expected to cover? Yes, ma'am.
Can you tell them a little bit about the cordon off or the
Oh.
containment stuff?
How many of you have seen the new sound barriers in Indianapolis? Big concrete walls they're putting around the 465? Those are sound barriers. But that's not what they're for. What they're doing around all the big cities, they're putting these barrier walls up so if there is a biological or a nuclear problem, they can contain the people within the bowl. And that's what they call the 865 quarter is the bowl. We want to keep all the people in there that are sick and not get out. There are 38 ways to cross 465, either over or under. You would think there's more, but there's actually only 38. Or maybe it's 48. It's either 38 or 48. I have to look at my numbers again. But that's all there is. So if you're inside of Indianapolis when the balloon goes up and the stuff hits the fan, there's only certain ways you can get out. If they shut down 465, they're going to patrol the outer ring of 465 And the inner ring, which is the other side, the lanes, is a no cross zone. They don't need that many people to contain everybody in the city. If the balloon goes up, 465 is the first cutoff space. County Line Road in Greenwood is the second shutoff space. The third shutoff space is 144. The next space is 252. And they will be shutting it off right here at the stoplight in Trafalgar by McDonald's. And it'll go across all the way to Martinsville, across around Martinsville up 39, and 39 around the city. So that's what coming from the north is. Coming from the south is 50 something at Scottsburg.
52.
And then Seymour is the next one. Then Columbus at 46. And then it just catches in between here. But that's what they're going to contain. They've got it figured out to get the maximum shutdown by the least amount of people. If you've got to get out of Dodge fast, if things happen, your family should have a meeting point. You should have code words for your family that pick up their cell phone and say, hey, everything's just apple pie. And if that's your family's notice, you know the stuff has hit the fan, go to your prearranged meet point. Have a plan.
The cables that go down the median of the interstates, are those for a purpose to keep people from being able to?
But that keeps you from turning around.
Exactly.
Now, I went to Harbor Freight, I think it was $32, and I got a set of bolt cutters that long. I needed them for summer camp to cut the padlocks off of wall lockers. And since they were paying for it and I got to keep them, I got the biggest set they had. Will it cut that cable? Yes, it will. I thought about that. The idea is so that you cannot make a U-turn. Because if you're stuck on the interstate, you're toast. If you're EMP'd on your interstate, grab Bob out of the truck and get your butt out the interstate and into the woods. If you're in Indiana, have an Indiana map. If you're in Johnson County, have a Johnson County topo map. Know your way around. Take a country drive. Learn the roads around your community if you don't know them. Have at least 6 alternate ways to get out of town. And then have some more. My favorite detective guy, Monk, you know, he's got this, and he's got the backup for that, and the backup for this and this, and the fourth backup. You got to have backup plans.
A lot of you may not know this, but the way the roads are set up in Johnson County, so you got your center line, and you got your division. As you go north of division, the numbers are going to get higher. So you're in the 100 north block, 200 north, and in between, all the way up to county line, which is 1100 north. You go south, you'll go 100 south, 200. This is actually 400 south. Mm-hmm. Next mile marker south, county road will be like, I don't know, you got 550 south, 400 south.
And each 100 is supposed to be a mile.
Yeah. So if you ever get lost, what I'm saying is, and you lose your sense of direction and you're walking a county road, you're like, oh, I just hit 350 west. I walk some more, now I just hit 450 west. I know I'm moving west. Same thing with east. So as far as in this, most counties have gone to that. And you can actually look at people's mailboxes so you don't have to walk that mile. So just food for thought when you threw that out there.
No, it's good. Said every little bit helps. It's all about relationships. It's all about learning.
Water, find you a good field tile. We drank those as kids. You figure that water's going through 3-4 foot of dirt, it's hitting the tile, find out where it's exiting. That's a great emergency source of water.
I hadn't even remember. I've been drinking field tile water. I didn't remember that.
I would run it through a filter if you have it, but I mean, if that's your worst case scenario, I mean, and you don't have any way to filter, that's going to be your...
Run it through your t-shirt.
Run it through your t-shirt, and you should probably be pretty good to go.
Yeah.
Hey, the worst you can do is give you the trots. You get over the trots better than you get over dying of dehydration. Oh, speaking of that, medicine, I digress real quick. As you're thinking about stuff to put away, kaopectate, milk magnesia, over-the-counter stuff.
Imodium.
Now, you know kaopectate, you can actually get the powdered equivalent of that at the Tractor Supply store in large quantities, because that's what, it's a powder form, I can't remember what it's called, and I should have brought that book. But they give it to hogs for scours. But it's kaopectate in powder form. And if you use hog medicine for humans, it's by weight. Ragnar, R-A-G-N-A-R, Benson, B-E-N-S-O-N. He writes pocketbooks. Ditch Medicine is one of his books. It tells you how to take medicine from vet stores like Tractor Supply, Blue King and stuff, and how to use it on humans. And what he did when he was in the Peace Corps. He was a Special Forces medic. And he's got everybody's knife Bible and Guns R Us or something. But he's got a lot of little books about the size of this that you can put in your pocket and teaches you a lot of things. Whoops, sorry. And then you can order the cards for edible plants and put in your bug out bags off of Amazon. And if you're a Prime member, you get free shipping. And I have nothing to do with Amazon. We're Prime members because we order so much garbage off of there because we save money. And a good barter item, like he said, is toilet paper. Aspirin. Aspirin's willow.
Yeah, white willow bark. The inside membrane of the white willow bark is aspirin. Just peel it off. You can separate the internal membrane. Comes off in a sheet. You cut a square. Peel the bark. Peel the membrane off. It's a little clear sheet. Just a 1 inch by 1 inch is like 4 aspirin. You can put it on a tooth. You can put it on externally. It'll absorb through the skin. You can take it internally, and that's why your sweat lodges are made of that. It's made of willow because when the steam hits it, it releases the healing properties into the people in the sweat lodge to purify them and help heal their bodies.
Any questions?
CBs, short range communications, where they're not going to pick up over distance.
Commo, if we're EMP'd, you need to have your stuff in a Faraday cage. Everybody know what a Faraday cage is? So I don't have to go into that. But one thing for cheap Faraday cage, you know what a Merrimack is? The Army used to have these little green boxes. They had 3 tubes in it. They would vacuum seal. They put food in to take the field. You can get them off of eBay. But anyway, you open them up, and they're that thick. The insulation is, and they're rubber sealed inside to out, and they're naturally made Faraday cage for dropping radios in. They're real good. Remember, if you got a radio, you got to have a way of keeping it for EMP. Have a set aside. Also, have some kind of code set up within your family so that you're not saying, hey, John, I'm here, I'm trying to get there. Have waypoints that the Army uses, waypoint Charlie or waypoint Zulu or whatever. I'm at the banana split, and that's whatever road you want it to be. I'm headed towards the hot fudge sundae. Whatever your family wants to make it, but something only you guys would know. And have code words for distress. Okay? Maybe the cherry pie is the distress code that we're under attack here, or we can't get there because X, Y, Z. Think about it. And whatever you do as far as, if this is my exit route, use it once in a while. Because you'll show up and the road is, I came down 44 the other day and it was closed. Then I came down the next day and it's open and the curves are gone. That road's been there for 60 years that I know of. And I've been driving on that road probably 48 of them, because I was driving before I was supposed to. And the curves were always there. And the barn's gone. They took the barn. Any other questions, comments, complaints?
Now, as far as foraging, around here locally, what are your top 5 that you should start looking for now?
Okay, chicory, plentiful. Wild lettuce, plenty of it. It's good fighting. Cattails, okay. Blackberry leaf, or blackberry stems, okay. Even if it doesn't have the berries. Yeah, and any of your nuts. You got walnuts, you got hickory nuts, you got hazelnuts, you got acorns, all of those protein.
I like the Queen Anne's lace.
All right, Queen
It's the
Anne's
wild,
lace.
it's a wild carrot. I love that stuff.
But you can't harvest Queen Anne's lace till after November because it's too bitter. After that, it's a really sweet carrot. Your modern day carrot came from that plant. It's wild parsnip. It's Queen Anne's lace, big white flower top on it. The top part of it's poisonous. Don't eat that.
You can put it in a salad for somebody you don't like.
No, that would be unethical. But in the fall harvest for that, it's very sweet. It's very sweeter than any carrot you can have. Field corn. You can eat field corn. You have to have a grinder for it. They're $28 on eBay. We just bought ours. You can get for $6, you can get a 5-gallon bucket filled with field corn, seal it up, and you've got that to make tortillas with, make cornbread with. You can add it and make gruel if you have to. Slippery elm bark. Thick slippery elm bark makes a gruel which is nutritious. Okay, you can eat it for about a week to survive on it. After that, because it leaches minerals out of the system, you want to change to something else. But if you're out in the field going from mountain A to mountain T on a search, just peel some off, throw it in some water, throw it in the pack, seal it up. By the time you get there, it will dissolve into a gruel. Pine cones have pine nuts in them. The pine needles are loaded with vitamin C. For treating scurvy, when the sailors got off the ship on the East Coast, the Native Americans saw they had scurvy. They taught them to use the pine needle tea to cure the scurvy because it's loaded with more vitamin C than an orange. 1 cup of pine needle tea will cure your scurvy. So the food is out there. There's a lot of good foraging books on it, but yeah, those are some of the local ones that keep you alive. And you can harvest as you run. So if you have a small pouch on your hip, I carry a small pouch when I'm harvesting for medicines or something. If I'm harvesting for medicines, I smudge first, and I make an offering before I take that to heal somebody. Because I'm a traditional healer. I don't take from the Creator for medicines without giving something first. It's just wrong. You don't steal from God. Yeah, it's a form of tithing. The jewel weed soap. Once you harvest the jewel weed, you've got to process it, fine process, cold process. Do not cook it. You can cook it to make a salve, but it won't last. If you take the jewel weed, chop it up real fine, put it in the processor, and pulverize it good, then add it to glycerin. Just glycerin soap. Don't add any additives to it. It'll turn green, but it'll knock it out. It's an antiviral, antifungal, antibacterial soap. It's easy to make. It stores for about 3 years. It holds up good, and you know the Army likes it, the Navy likes it, the Air Force loves it. And my chiropractor just bought 10 bars of it last week because he was amazed by it too. It's just the Creator made this wonderful plant and stuck in the bar soap. So it just worked real good.
Any other questions?
What's the train tracks in Atterbury? Mom said something about Camp Lejeune or
Okay,
something?
there's a new set of train tracks in Atterbury, and I didn't bring,
Railhead. It's a railhead.
and I did not bring a copy of the map. What the government's very concerned with, one of the things that they're concerned with, is a tsunami on the East Coast, and they actually, or a major earthquake hitting the Wabash Valley and stuff. But it would change where the water is in the world, and the oceans, and the maps that the Navy's got brings the water all the way up in Indiana. The railhead that was built and the town that's there that you can't see, and there's a big, looks like a college campus back there with multi-story buildings and big mess halls. It is for Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. They come here twice a year. They bring their whole Marine base here by train, all their airplanes, their helicopters, everything that's there, every paperclip. When they leave Camp Lejeune, there's nothing left. And they can move from Camp Lejeune to here in 2 days. It takes them 4 days from the time that they are given the order, and it's 2 days travel time, 2 days to pack and 2 days to get here with all their trains. And when they get here, that whole railhead's full, all those parking lots are full, everything over there is full of Marines. Now there has been some talk about the incinerator at Beech Grove. Now they do have big gas things going in there. It could be used as an incinerator, but that's not what it was built for. Sorry about the woo-woo and the tight, you know. But the government could change it over to use it for that if they wanted to. But what was set up for is they had to heat that big space when they were painting train cars in the winter. And that's why it's got the big gas things in it, the gas ovens. But that's not to say the government couldn't use it for that. But my tinfoil hat's not tight enough yet for that. Did I fail to cover anything that we discussed? Like I said, there's so many things that I know that go on so fast in my head that if I came and did this class again next week, you get a whole different class because I wouldn't remember what I taught. And I've got probably 30 notebooks of stuff that I put together. I got notebooks on colloidal silver. I've got notebooks on herbal medicine, notebooks on wild plants to eat, notebooks on how to butcher all the different animals, buffalo, sheep, goats, cows. I have the equipment to do it. I own 3 different Cheyenne lodges now, which I haven't told you about. We'll get to that later. Because he doesn't have his own teepee yet. But the thing is, I mean, people laugh, but if the balloon went up and everybody showed up at my house, I only got 2.5 acres. But I got enough tents and teepees, I could probably put up 100 people. Because we do historical reenactment, and I'm the keeper of the canvas. And I'm a blacksmith and a wheelwright. And so, find something that you want to learn to do. Making knives, doing blacksmithing, carpentry, something you can do without modern tools. If we go back to the 1800s from an EMP, or money collapses, what talent do you have that you can trade for food? What do you know that's going to make you money? Find something, some field of expertise that you can put to work, that you can use your talent to help you, and that talent you could trade to somebody else for something. It's all about relationships. Any other questions? If not, turn it back over to you.
Nope, we're done then.
Then you can pray us out of here.
All right, yep. Lord, we just thank you for this time we've had to spend. I thank you for the challenges that we've had. I just pray that, Lord, you just be with our country, Lord. We pray for revival. We pray that Christians be prepared, that we would be ready to help, and Lord, also ready to share the gospel. We just pray also you just give us the wisdom, Lord, on what to do and when to do it, and Lord, conviction to do it. And Lord, just have us to be prepared and a step ahead, Lord, of most people. Lord, I appreciate the insights you give us, Lord. I just pray you just be with us as we leave. Just safeguard and protect us, Lord. Be with services tomorrow. May you be glorified in all we say and do. In your Son Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Now, if you guys want to look at the books and write the names down, feel free.
Yeah.
Take the caps off, crack them, put them in boiling
Dan?
water.
Yes, sir.
She said if you get caught out on the interstate,
Dump the water, put fresh
that
water.
you're toast.
Yep. Get off the interstate. If the car is all, if everything around you quits running, that's a red flag that there's been an EMP blast. Now, if the cars are still running and your radio still works, it's okay. You're just stuck in a traffic jam. But if you're driving along and your car goes to a stop and everybody else is stopping and everybody's standing around with a thumb up their nose, then you know that there's a bad problem and you don't want to be there because whatever you've got, them people are going to want.
That's right. I'm talking to you.
Long as something runs on points, and it'll run.
Yep. But the problem is, if you're on the interstate, you can't. You're going to be a target because you can't get it off the interstate.
It's got a
What's that?
it's not got a computer, but it's got a.
Points condenser.
No, it's
Take
got,
your compass,
it's got a
find out
magnetic
where
pulse.
you want to be.
Okay. So you get if you're going to use that as your emergency vehicle, get you an extra set of the pulse equipment for it. Stick it in the microwave. Ground the microwave. Wrap them in a space blanket inside the microwave. Ground the microwave so it's grounded
That's the
good,
course I taught over here in Attica.
and keep it inside of a metal building.
And then they made a book out of it.
I'm building
They didn't give me
a house.
Come on, guy.
I got a metal roof on the outside, 3/4 inch plywood, 2x6 with insulation, 3/4 plywood on the inside, and metal walls on the inside for my Faraday room. It's rodent proof, it's electrical proof, it'll stop up to a 50 caliber.
Dan, where do you live?
In the middle of nowhere.
Y'all can't get there from here.
If anyone wants to give Dan a little bit just for the information that he gave us, feel free to do that. And we have bananas up here.
Oh, that I'm hiding?
That you're hiding.
You can have banana too.
You can have bananas.
Another thing, as you're thinking about this, you guys might want to consider, if you own your own place, planting some fruit trees and some pawpaw trees, things like that. Pawpaw trees are the Indian bananas.
What do we said mall? And I'm like,
But,
he said it's everywhere, but.
but get you some fruit trees out. I know at Atterbury we've got training area 42, which is Hickory Ridge, and that's where we go pick hickory
Yeah, we always
nuts.
had our own.
And I can fill a 5-gallon bucket in about
Canoe
10
tree.
minutes.
That's what I say. If we was going to rendezvous, I'd say meet me at the canoe tree. You know where to
Have
go.
we got time to grow?
Kid name.
To grow them?
You're biodiesel.
No, I go out with the DOC's guys. It's really funny because the prisoners, if you take them out to work,
Me and Levi.
they'll do anything to get out of
We're building just
their cages,
fuel, mostly.
and they'll go out and pick hickory nuts and
stuff.
walnuts and shell them, and then we feed them real good.
See, I'm working on getting at least a
They like biscuits and
Some of
gravy.
French is pretty cheap. You want your freeze-dried food,
There's a guy over in Paragon, name of James, anyway, in Paragon, Indiana, over on 67. He's got this little junk shop. His name is James. Can't remember his last name. But he's got a bunch of food dehydrators over there and camp stoves and stuff. He buys up shelf pull-offs. And we bought a 15 tray commercial food dehydrator, Gander Mountain make, and normally they're $700. We got it for $100 from him.
Dehydrator.
A dehydrator. And we dehydrate apples and pears and strawberries and tomatoes and then stick them in, and we dehydrate venison, make jerky. And a homemade dehydrator is real easy. You get a bunch of trays, stick them inside of a black car, leave the windows open about that much, and leave a little tiny fan going. A car will dehydrate food real fast. I got a buddy that's got a little black minivan that he built shelves in that he took out of a bread tray racks. And that's his dehydrator. He's got electric, he cut a hole, put a little 12-volt fan in the top, and in the summer he dehydrates with that. Well, it's like, you like peppers? Hot peppers and stuff? Take the time to go to the Mexican food stores over Taylorsville. They sell bags of dehydrated peppers already packaged and sealed. They got a 10-year shelf life, and they're cheap. I mean, we bought a whole case of them for like $40 because I like habaneros and I like jalapenos, and I like them dehydrated, throw in the chilies. And then we take habaneros, and you take a quart jar and you shove them clear full into it. As tight as you can fill it full of vodka and seal it. And let it set. It makes a pepper tincture. We got a friend that had a stroke out in Colorado. They live up on the mountain. And Jay is 80-some years old. He had a stroke. Couldn't talk or anything. And it's an hour and a half to the hospital from where they live. And his wife, she couldn't even get him up, so she dumped this pepper stuff under his tongue, went down, got the car, closed the house, she was going to drag him out. Said time she got back in there, he could talk, so she dumped some more under his tongue, and waited a few minutes. She got him to the hospital. You know, after 30 minutes, we kept dropping it, he could walk. And the doc said it saved his life because the capsaicin and the peppers opened up all the blood vessels and caused a flushing sensation.
Hot peppers?
Yeah, habaneros. And she puts them in vodka. Well, you have to put them in alcohol, either vodka or Everclear. Everclear, they say, is 200 proof. He had some blisters, but hey, it was a stroke. And he's alive today, he's got all his functions. He's a pilot. He's got a bi-wing sitting up there. But, his wife doesn't want it. He's a real good friend, both Air Force guys. When he crosses over, I get it. It's got a 12-cylinder Continental engine. One of them rotary engines. I've been up in it. Yes.
You fly?
Not very well. I puke real good when he does this. Can I get it home? Yeah. No, I'll go with a buddy of mine that's the pilot from, we'll fly it home. By the time I get it home, I have flown it. By the time I get it home, I'll be able to fly it good. I can get them off the ground and I can land them in an emergency. Am I a pilot? No. But old school stuff, I can survive if I have to.
Follow the roads.
There,
You're showing me their app.
Oh, we didn't follow the keep
It is what it is.
Do this as a ministry, or is this a part of your?
I don't want that lead accepted.
That's pretty much.
I had on I switched shirts when I came here. Because I had my shirt and my logo on at work. And this was a type of a ministry for me. I teach for the Homeland Security. We teach the Special Forces, the SEALs and all that. And a lot of Army units, right before you go to Iraq or Afghanistan, they'll spend a week with us. And I teach unconventional warfare. If you are captured, here's what you do. If in your vest, I've got 35 millimeter canisters, and I've got a mixture of stuff I put in that canister for you to have in your survival vest. It will kill a dog. That dog sniffs it up, that dog's dead. And you only got to sprinkle a little on your track and go. There's enough for 5 sprinkles in a 35 millimeter canister. And if they got dogs on you, that dog's dead. It'll bleed to death within 3 minutes time it sniffs it up his nose. I don't use it. I don't sniff it. I learned it off of Drill Sergeant Jordan. In 1980, I joined the Army in 72. In 1982, I became a drill instructor. I quit being a DI in 2003. And I got out, I was a senior drill. And my drill sergeant Jordan, he had 2 medals of honor, one from Korea and one from Vietnam. And I didn't know it. So we went to I got a medal for saving some kid's life. It was stupid. And I didn't deserve the medal. I just wanted to pull him out of the river. I didn't deserve the medal. But they gave it to me with the Army. And he was getting something else from the president. And so we went up, or Secretary of the Army, John Marsh, was the president. So we went up and we had our national service ribbon on, just one ribbon on our uniforms. Because if you only got one, you can only get kicked for one thing. So we were going to go up to this thing, and our first Sergeant Barkus, he says, go back and get all your ribbons, both of you. And Jordan, spastic on it. And he said, that's an order. And so we go back, and Jordan pulls this rosewood case out from under his bunk. He never married. Opens it up, and there's 2 Medal of Honors, one beside each other. I'd never even seen one in person. And I said, what? He said, shut up. He said, go get your gear and shut up. So he put his stuff on, and I had a salad bar like this. And we started out, and he said, now you're going to walk 1 step to the right, 1 step behind. You do not salute anybody. You keep your mouth shut, and you do exactly what I tell you. I said, okay. So we're walking along, and he's got his head down, he's just plodding along. His full bird colonel starts passing, opens his mouth, and does even saluting. And he turns around and says, you got a problem, sir? And the colonel snaps to attention and salutes Jordan. I didn't realize there was a rule. Doesn't matter what your rank is, you render honor to the guy with the medal. And he explained all this to me later on when I was painted white and I was at the children's hospital with him, because I wasn't relating well as a drill instructor, but I got the Jesus complex and I was starting to get out of hand. So he played with, I said he played with dolls, but he did puppets and stuff for children's ministry at the children's hospital. So he got me doing that as part of my probation with the Army. I had to go to the hospital with him. So he painted me white so I couldn't talk. And he said, you're a mime, you can't talk. And I started, he said, you can't talk. So we went to the hospital, and on the way back, he told me some stuff, how he got them, but he never talked about it before, and he never talked again.
Okay, the juices that come down through.
And he died, he died, he was 67, he was still pushing troops.
Loaded with saltpeter. because
He had a deal with Eisenhower, or Nixon, or somebody. As long as he was alive, he could be a drill instructor, as long as he could do it.
dehydrating your urine.
And they couldn't take him off the trail, they couldn't retire him, because he got a second medal, and they gave him a choice of assignments, and that was his. A wonderful man, a real great man of God.
Smokehouse.
But you meet people like that, and he taught me so much.
The soil, the old graves, above the old.
Hey, he taught me not to do this. I used to do this all the time. I used to stand like this. Never again. It's always like this now. And the reason you don't do this is it only takes one hand. I can grab both your hands. You can't do anything.
It's a cross.
No. No. Because if your hands are under here, my hands are like this. It's always like this.
Yeah.
You know?
How do we do with the bananas?
And it's little things like that.
Oh.
And we don't give them out till Wednesday, and they're gonna go bad.
It's
that'd be
just
bad,
one of
buddy.
these things that I never thought about.
Gotta get rid of them.
He's the one that taught me the
Take a
cone.
couple of them.
Separate salt.
Oh, I might eat one.
We're designated drivers because neither of us drink. So we go out with the unit when they're partying, and he never carried knives, he never carried, he always carried a comb. That size, and he had no hair. I mean, he was just as shiny as a cue ball. And he always had that comb. So he got in, we were in a bar, and this big old bruiser, the guy started getting lippy with him. He said, "Son, leave me alone, I'm not in the mood." And he kept running his mouth. He just stood there, he said, "I'm done." He said, "We're leaving." "Hey, I'll whip you." He said, "Yep, you can whip me." He said, "I don't want to fight." The guy touched him, and that comb come out, and it was zap! From here to here, he was cut and bleeding like a stuck pig.
Pretty much an all.
And just dropped him to the ground. And he landed on him, 2 or 3 fingers in his chest, and the kid was about killed him. And then he stayed there and helped keep him alive till the medics got there. And then he went to the hospital and sat out there while they worked on the guy, and they took him up to put him in chains. The shore patrol did, and he went up and he said, "Now son," he said, "I told you. I didn't want to fight." He said, "I'm sorry I had to." This guy was, he epitophized the man of God. There wasn't a preacher. He walked, he talked as a drill instructor. I never heard him or Drill Sergeant Napier ever said a nasty word. Never a cuss word. I mean, these were the guys that, as a young drill sergeant, that you want to mentor you. I didn't realize at that time what I had when I started. And then they slowly, we don't use that language. You don't have to do that. You don't have to be that way. You don't have to raise your voice. You don't have to belittle those troops. Things that I never knew.
Take that water and dump it into the other, because you can use that for training.
And then I got out of the Army in 03. In 05, I had a bad moment, and this Air Force recruiter talked me into re-enlisting, gave me a direct commission, and I'm still in.
Pleasure meeting you.
Yes, sir.
So where do you fly? Where is the?
I don't normally fly. I am the logistics officer. I'm a reserve. I'm a logistics officer liaison between the Civil Air Patrol and the Air Force. We work out of Atterbury for the National Emergency Service Academy out in our orderly rooms at Maxwell Air Force Base. And Major Brockman and I are here full time. So we very seldom see our chain of command. They're down here for 21 days in July and August, combined 21 days, and we don't see them for another year. We don't drill. We do 21 days of AT, plus a week before, a week after, set up and tear down. That's it. It's all done at one time. Let me step in here just a second.
Are you out of the country though? So you have access to that. We're in the country, we just moved a year ago from the country. But we don't know why, maybe it's to be with you guys, somehow to get to know you or something.
The browner they are, the healthier they are.
But it's funny how you go by those things all the time, and I know the names of some of them, and it's like, some that I probably have in my yard. I remember one time the man came to, we had campaign.